Hi everybody, my name is Derek DeNicola, and I am a screenwriter, writer-producer working out of Los Angeles, California, and this is my Twitch live stream. I should be writing, and I will be. Today I'm going to be finishing up a short story that I was working on the past 2 streams. We got out our vomit draft, and I had some notes for myself that I want to go and clean up, and then what we'll have after I do those notes is essentially a first rough draft. I'll go back and read it through, give myself some more notes, and then sometimes what I do is whenever I get to the end of something like that, instead of staying in it myopically, I will set it aside, work on something else. That way I can come back to it with a pair of fresh eyes and judge it as if I were a reader for the first time and not stuck on my own ideas. Excellent. So we'll keep going. Let's see. Okay, let's pull up the AI short story. No, I haven't touched this for about a week. I'm only writing this story on stream so you guys can see the full process, really, how I choose to write. Let's see, we have all of our notes here. Okay, and I always like to read the log line, catch myself back up. After the death of her mother, a woman, in an attempt to reconnect with herself, inadvertently forms a relationship with an AI art exhibit, only to realize that some of the deepest truths can come from artificial sources. After the death of her mother, I think we gave her a name, Julie. And then also I don't want readers to confuse Julie with potentially being the mother, and this also shortens it. After her mother's death, Julie, in an attempt to reconnect with herself, inadvertently forms a relationship with an AI art exhibit. And honestly, this is fluff. I don't like that either. Let me put it back actually, just so you can see, only to realize that some of the deepest truths can come from artificial sources is fluff. It's general. It doesn't really tell you any more about the story or what to expect from the story, which is why I took it out. We know that she kind of brings her relationship full circle back into the real life and that she starts painting again. So I would say inadvertently forms a relationship with an AI art exhibit that awakens a passion within her or gives her a new lease on life. Just to be kind of short, but also like this is about the plot. Who are you expecting? What are the relationships? We know that we have Julie. We have a little bit of her backstory after her mother's death. It's kind of like about loneliness and grief in some of those ways. In an attempt to reconnect with herself, we have her taking action, inadvertently forms a relationship with an AI art exhibit. We have the plot, and we also have a little bit of the relationship. We actually say it on the nose, forms a relationship. That makes me think that maybe that's too general. Therapeutic relationship. And then relationship is, I don't know, but we'll call it a bond maybe. Forms a therapeutic bond with an AI art exhibit that awakens a passion within her she assumed was gone. And that's better than lease on life. You know, we say lease on life, it's a common expression. And it's so common that it isn't specific to the story. So that's kind of my reworked log line that I was only able to really do after I got through the entirety of the short story. I like that better. And as we keep making notes and keep making adjustments, I can keep adjusting my log line as well. We did all this, like Snyder beat sheet, who gives it away. Let's go down to the notes here. Julie moves too fast in romance. I don't think her actions are believable. Too much, too fast. Yes, I remember giving myself that note. How does art know about her college art experience? That's something that wasn't articulated to art. It needs to be fleshed out or cut entirely, understood. Note to myself. And build out the character of Barry and earn his Act 3 romance. Okay, so we're saying the character of Barry is underwritten. The trope in Hollywood is that this happens to women characters all of the time. They are like two-dimensional and they're there to serve the man. And here we have it in reverse, but we don't want to write bad or two-dimensional characters no matter what their gender. Everybody is the hero of their own story. So let's flesh out Barry as well. And let's see, is this thing? I think I'm debating whether I want to read this again or just jump into the notes. Maybe something good will come from not reading it again. And I can just work in a compartmentalized way, I think. Let me see. Okay. What's your name? So my first note was that Julie rushes into this bond a little too hard, too fast. So I want to get to where she meets Art, right? Is this performance art? She smiled back. Hello, the man gave a polite wave. What's your name? Julie, she replied sheepishly. So what is this? An immersive piece? Like if art is a reflection of life, is this an exhibit that allows us to directly view life, therefore art, kind of a situation? My guess is that the artist is leaving the interpretation up to us. What do you think? Okay, and at this point I was actually getting AI to write its own dialogue because it is an AI person while I was writing Julie's dialogue. Art is meant to evoke feeling. Maybe the artist isn't asking you to feel anything in particular, just to notice what you're feeling. Confusion, curiosity, maybe even a little frustration. The man leaned forward in his chair, interested, but I'm more interested in what you were feeling before you walked in. Julie clutched the collar of her shirt. She had been avoiding feelings all day. She looked around the room. No one was there to witness her honesty. The man seemed genuine and good-natured. She felt as if she didn't want to disappoint him, so she told the truth. I have a problem with this. She felt as if she didn't want to disappoint him, so she told him the truth. I don't like all the power that gives to a strange man that she just met. I want Julie to have her own agency and not just vomit this out of guilt. I mean, we did, like I said, this is a vomit draft and it did get us through the story, but I don't think it serves the character as well as a different choice would. So what I really like about it is I'm going to break this out until I correct it. And sometimes I write before I write the thing. I don't always have the perfect sentence, but it's the thing of when you feel absolutely alone in a crowd of people, and how it's the same when you confess your life to your barber, or usually men go to a barber. Julie would go to a hairstylist. She felt comfort in telling the truth to someone she didn't even know. Right, so that is the sentiment. This is kind of overly written. I'm hitting the same point twice. It's redundant, but this is what I'm trying to convey in a single sentence. Let's see. Let me see. I don't want to clutter the visuals here, but just so you guys know, I'm looking at a thesaurus, and also I use Google, so I'll say like, help, is there a single word to, or how to describe the feeling, and then I'll copy and paste that into Google and see if, like, because sometimes there'll be like a scientific term for it, even if, or maybe like a common expression or maxim that has evaded me for this. Thanks, thesaurus. Stranger intimacy, the comfort of opening up to someone you don't know because there's no emotional risk. This is used in psychology and literature. Alone in a crowd, a classic phrase describing isolation even when surrounded by others. The confessional effect, similar to how people overshare to strangers, bartenders, cab drivers, or stylists. Safe anonymity, feeling secure enough to be vulnerable because no one knows who you are. Emotional invisibility. And one-way vulnerability, when you share without expecting anything back. I don't think it's one-way vulnerability because we know that Julie doesn't know that AI art is artificial yet. So there could be reciprocity just because of the social contracts in which we exist with every day. Emotional invisibility sounds kind of sexy and romantic, being unseen in a way that paradoxically allows for more honesty. The fact that something can be paradoxical is interesting to me to add to my literature, because I feel like, oh, that has like the fun, surreal, quirky elements that I strive to put in my work. Safe anonymity, feeling secure enough to be vulnerable because no one knows who you are. I like that that's self-explanatory. So I almost would say, like, taking these phrases that make a lot of sense and condensing down my idea here, I would call it, she felt safety, and she felt safe in her anonymity. Well, no. No, because she's like saying, I'm Julie, and I'm gonna, I guess she could have always lied about her name. Let's say it, and, you know, I'm gonna rewrite, so if it's not right this time, I'll get it the next time. She felt safe in her anonymity, the strange intimacy one gets when they feel secure and not vulnerable, because there is no emotional risk. That's closer to, and then like to ground it in the real world. I don't want my literature to sound too science-y or minded. Like a woman used to style her hair. And maybe like a cute little thought like, I should schedule an appointment with her again, right? She pushed her hair out of her face and told Art the truth. Told him the truth. So now we'll bridge these together. Okay, like the pal. I was gonna say the hairstylist. Like Paola. By the way, that's my actual person who does my hair's name. So shout out to Paola, what's up? She doesn't watch this stream, she's busy cutting hair. So let's move this back up. Well, we broke it out. Let me reread it now. Julie clutched the collar of her shirt. She had been avoiding feelings all day. She looked around the room. No one was there to witness her honesty. The man seemed genuine and good-natured. She felt safe in her anonymity. The strange intimacy one gets when they feel secure enough to be vulnerable because there is no emotional risk. Like Paula, the woman who used to style her hair. Like, that isn't very clear. It's the beginnings of being clear. Like how she would confess all the details of her love life to Paula, the woman who used to style her hair. I should schedule an appointment with her. She pushed her hair out of her face, and we just said hair a lot, kind of. Let's say bangs. She pushed her bangs out of her face and told him the truth. I was feeling lost. I started a new chapter of my life. I don't know who I am anymore or what I want to be. I just know that this place makes me happy. It's the place I can remember feeling. It's the last place I can remember feeling like myself. The man folded his hands under his chin, fully engaged. That sounds like a very honest place to be. Uncomfortable, but honest. Starting a new chapter usually means something ended. And when something ends, even if it needed to, we don't always know what's left behind. AI dialogue is rough. I don't think I would have written it like this, but I do like the fact that it seems a little disconnected because it is AI dialogue. And this is literally the state of the art that we're in right now. It's almost like a time capsule piece to where ChatGPT is in 2025. And by the way, I think this is a good way to use ChatGPT. Just like if you were an actor and wanted to, I don't know, play a role in the military and you wanted to follow a soldier around for a week. This is methodology. This is method writing. And if we're using AI dialogue, it should come from AI. It's there. It's a good tool in that capacity. But remember, AI does not replace artistry, rather. Oh, Ram, what's up? Welcome back. The dialogue kind of means nothing. It's good that it's AI. Yeah, right? It's kind of a little bit word salad. It's what AI is good at doing that. It would take a lot more finesse for me to figure this out, is kind of saying nothing while sounding like you are, right? Yeah, exactly. Ram says it's from A to B to A. It's kind of a circular dialogue, right? Let me read it again. That sounds like a very honest place to be, okay? So it's like saying it is what it is. There's a Q word, honesty, which honestly just means truth, but honesty isn't normally derogatory. So I can see that that AI's intention is to be supportive, at least in how it leads. Uncomfortable but honest. Starting a new chapter usually means something ended. Yep, it's like saying it is what it is. It's always darkest before the dawn, just basic maxims. And when something ends, even if it needed to, we don't always know what's left behind. I think Julie, how about this? Ram, because honesty is an honest place to be. It is what it is, except when it isn't. That's how you know that it is. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that makes me think like Ram, like whenever you like this is coming from Gabriel saying he's like, oh, the snark is the note, but I've learned to pay attention to it because it is the truth. That thing can inform how our human responds to it, right? So we are humans. We are writing as Julie. We're having an emotional reaction to this AI art exhibit. And I just want to say, like, Julie nodded in confused agreement. And I don't want to say that she's moved by the man's ability to examine her situation, but moved by the man's ability to examine her situation. That sounds like AI, and I wrote that part. But I think what it is that she's probably just relieved that someone's listening, right? Simply relieved that she was just relieved to have someone listen to her again. This could be like a chance to also touch on the backstory, because my instinct is to say the past few months, the only people she had spoken to were doctors, nurses, insurance agents, and a particularly, I want to say like flat personality, plain. I like the alliteration, funeral director. So now we have like a little bit more of that backstory peppered in. Ram says, I think the placeholder here is that what Julie thinks is the other man's truth. Is she trying to make him feel good? That's what it inspires in me. I see your point about AI usage. Yeah, Ram, I don't know whenever you jumped into the chat, but I had a sentence that I corrected a little bit earlier where we talked about how I had just off the cuff in the vomit draft written that Julie felt safe and didn't want to disappoint the man, so she decided to tell him the truth. And I was just thinking, oh, that gives so much power to this AI art exhibit, but just keeping in mind who is telling the story. Like, we are a third person, limited, omniscient narrator telling Julie's story from her point of view, right? We're not going to let the reader know that we know more than Julie. That's the limited omnipotence. And so with that being the case, like, I know that even if we're in third person, that Julie is driving the story, and I want to give her all the power because she is the main character. And also, I don't want to have this woman where we have this strong woman who has been, man, I said that out loud and I thought of that South Park character immediately. But we have a woman who has literally taken care of her ailing mother and given up on her dreams and as a painter, and her safe space is a museum. She's smart and she's capable, and I just didn't want to give away all of her power because like a semi-handsome man gave her a little bit of attention. I want to keep the ball in her court and make sure that she's the hero of the story, especially since we do know, even though we're not letting the audience know, that this is simply AI machinery. If we start endowing Julie trying to change this piece of machinery, then you have to like follow that through. Then she either does or she doesn't. But what I like about following that chain of thought, Ram, and I'm glad that you brought it up, is if Julie does attempt to change purported problem that Art has, she can use her own experience to advise him. And usually when we give advice to people, at least in literature too, and in screenplays, this is also a nice little actor hack for anybody who's interested in acting. If you ever get a script or screenplay where a character is giving advice, often more times than not, they are talking about themselves, meaning that the advice that they're giving to others is advice that they wish they would have taken or should be taking. And that whenever you're giving advice to people, you're actually speaking from your own experience, because that's where advice comes from. It's the origin of it. Let me check this chat here. Ram, okay. Yeah, see your point about AI usage. Okay, so I know I just went on a little diatribe. Let's get back into the prose. But what I was going to say, Ram, is that, like, yes, maybe if Julie does the thing of trying to counter in the dialogue of their conversation, like, well, tell me about what's going on in your life, and let me tell you a little bit about what I've learned, and maybe that can help you in some sort of way. Then if she does that, whether she changes AI art or not, we have learned more about Julie's character because she made a choice to impart advice. And then the second layer of that is what kind of advice she chose to give will teach us more about Julie than it will change art, so to speak. Okay. She pushed the bangs out of her face and told him the truth. I was feeling lost. I started a new chapter of my life. I don't know who I am anymore or what I want to be. I just know that this place makes me happy. It's the last place I can remember feeling like myself. There's some redundancy here, but sometimes humans are redundant, and I'm not really ready to cut that yet. I don't know. I kind of like the humanness and the messiness of her repeating the point, whereas Art's dialogue generated by chat is very concise, even if it's not saying anything. Julie nodded in confused agreement. She was just relieved to have had someone listen to her again. The past few months, the only people she had spoken to were, I guess it wants a comma there. The only people she had spoken to were doctors, nurses, insurance agents, and a particularly plain funeral director. He continued, but you came here to the place that made you feel like yourself. That's not nothing. That's instinct, memory. So tell me, if you were to feel like yourself again, really, truly, what do you imagine that would feel like? What would be different? This does kind of mask itself as a little more human. It's not really nothing that's instinct, memory. Almost if AI or would have started the conversation like that, I would have had more belief that it was human. Leaning back in her chair, she let out a long, exasperated sigh. I can't even imagine. Just a confidence, maybe, just a certainty that I'm doing something that makes me feel like I'm not wasting my life. But what about you? I don't even think I got your name. What do you do? What did you come here for? Right? She's trying to put the ball back in his court. Makes me feel like I'm not wasting my life. I almost kind of want to give this something in italics. Why? Because she doesn't know either. It's interesting because if we think about this conversation between Julie and Art, it should also have its own 3-act structure, right? It should be a little mini story. And so we have a woman who doesn't know what she wants, and an artificial intelligence that doesn't have anything original to say. Like, it's all manufactured language learning model. So you really have two people who are lost on different sides of the spectrum, unbeknownst to the audience at this point. You might not believe it, but ironically, my name is Art. Can I tell you something, Julie? You don't sound lost to me. You sound like someone who wants something real, something with shape. That doesn't sound like you're wasting your life. That sounds like someone who's just trying to find the right place to stand. Okay, let's talk about this. You might not believe it, but ironically, my name is Art. Is Art normally short for something? Artie's longer than Art. No. Is the person's name. It was like Art is short for artistic, but no. Oh, Arthur. Okay. That makes sense. I'm going to change his dialogue a little bit. I don't know. I shouldn't. That's kind of disobeying my own rule, right? You might not believe it. Maybe I won't change, but I'll cut. My name is Arthur. My name is Art. Can I tell you something? My name is Art. Can I tell you something, Julie? You don't sound lost to me. You sound like someone who wants something real, something with shape. That doesn't sound like wasting your life. That sounds like someone who's just trying to find the right place to stand. Thank you for saying that. That means a lot. She's saying thank you for saying that she's not doing nothing, that she is trying. There's something to be said for trying. So let's look at our act or 3-act structure. Is that evolving into something? Art leaned back and scratched his head. Thank you for saying that. That means a lot. Maybe it's what I needed to hear today. But tell me about you. It would make me feel a little better about participating in this little exhibit. What kind of person are you? What do you want? Art leaned back and scratched at his head. He gave himself a moment to think. I suppose I'm the kind of person who prefers asking. Don't need at. Scratched his head. Who prefers asking questions to answering them? Not because I'm hiding anything, but because I think people reveal themselves more and what they wonder about than what they claim to know. As for what I want, to be understood, to be useful, to make someone feel a little less alone for a while. What about you? If you knew no one would laugh, no one would judge and nothing you said could be wrong, what's the one thing you'd admit to wanting most right now? That's actually the best counteractive dialogue AI wrote, which, remember, whenever I prompted chat to generate this dialogue, we gave the artist who created AI art a backstory and an intention with his art. So art is operating off of his base set of rules as created by his artist. So this is his objective, to fool people, to be supportive and engaging, and to essentially be the art project that makes the other person the art, the viewer the art. That is the artist's goal. So with that being said, I do think that chunk of dialogue served both purposes. Julie bit her lip. Her thoughts immediately ran back to her mother. If anything were possible, she'd wish to have her back, alive and healthy, so she would never have to miss having a late night chat with her, telling her which actors she thought were cute, having someone to show her work to when she finally got back to painting. But even this thought was too much to say out loud, even to a stranger she'd never speak to again. The thought alone had nearly brought her to tears. Love, I guess, that's what everyone wants, right? Or a sense of purpose. I'm at my worst when I don't have direction. Now I have no one in my life to give it to me, and I'm too scared to make any choices for myself. I feel like a lot of my life is over, so if I make a bad decision, it could possibly ruin the rest of the time I have here on Earth. Let's take out the possibly. I could ruin, like, it just makes it sound higher stakes without all these little caveats that people normally write in their vomit drafts. You'll see like a lot of possiblies, actuallys, reallys, justs, kind ofs. But just be aware of those choices. They normally come out in a vomit draft because we're often doubting ourselves, but we have to push through. However, in a finished, polished story, the cleanest, simplest story is the one that's easiest to follow and the characters are easiest to relate to because they have a clear intention and it isn't wishy-washy. Of course, there's exceptions to every rule, so if you have a wishy-washy character, maybe they kind of, sort of, maybe do, kind of, maybe talk like that. If it's part of their character, of course, but just know that that does get annoying to a reader and they do pick up on it, whether consciously or subconsciously. Ooh, this chat's lighting up. Hey everybody. Oh, Scrolly's back on. Scrolly, Lisa and I tried to watch Wolf's Rain, and we were looking for it on all the different streamers, and then by the time we realized that it was on Crunchyroll, it was late, so we are going to try again later because we want to watch it on the big TV screen, kind of. So it's just to take a little bit more setup and stuff, but definitely looking forward to watching it. Let's see. Ram says one way to edit is to use note on what to change. This way you create separation between church and state, evaluation and creation mode. The dialogue is really clumsy. You have a lot of discipline here. Yeah. AI doesn't work like that. It's just predicting the next word off the other word. Two characters on the page will bleed their personalities into each other. Even to a stranger, someone who she likely would never speak ever after, likely as a pragmatic discourse marker for FID. It can indicate a closer psychic distance level. It's different from screenplay. Oh, Ram says Wolf's Rain is probably the slowest anime in all of existence. It's like watching a hammer that is 1 centimeter big hit a nail that is 7 miles long. Sick. Yeah, it definitely feels like a film more than an anime. The first episode is one of the best first episodes I've ever seen. All right, Scroll and Ram, you can talk about anime in the chat while I keep working out this prose. Yeah, Ram, yeah, let's see, it's different from screenplay. Going back to your stuff, even to a stranger, someone she likely would never speak to after. Yeah, AI isn't actually AI, it's a language learning model, correct. It's like highly advanced predictive text, right? Let's see, love, I guess. That's what everyone wants, or a sense of purpose. I'm at my worst when I don't have direction. Now I have my life to give it to me, and I'm too scared to make any choices for myself. I feel like a lot of my life is over. So if I make a bad decision, I could ruin the rest of the time. Yeah, so this is clearly all a vomit draft, right? She's literally saying what she feels with pure unadulterated honesty, but humans usually hide the ball a little bit more. Humans are a little bit more protected. She might be a little bit more, or I'm sorry, less risk averse with the alone in a crowded room kind of situation that we talked about her being in, the emotional vulnerability that you have with no emotional risk in conversing with a stranger like one does a hairstylist. But I think what we would need to do is bury the lead, because right now this is kind of where I see my note taking effect, right? Like she goes too far too fast was the note that we're trying to correct here. I almost kind of want to give it, like, end it here a little bit. Love, I guess. That's what everyone wants, right? Like, nervously trying to get out of the tough part of the conversation or a sense of purpose. I'm at my worst when I don't have direction. This is just, this is vomit from the vomit draft, and it's time to clean up the vomit. I want my life to give it to me, and I'm too scared to make any choices for myself. I feel like a lot of my life is over. So if I make a bad decision, I could ruin the rest. Yeah, that's pretty heavy. So let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of the loneliness. The reader already knows this. She doesn't really need to share this. The reason that I like this piece of dialogue is that it kind of creates that feeling of a ticking clock. I feel like a lot of my life is over, but I don't want it to be so, it's so heavy and sad. I think you could just say something that's a little lighter that conveys the same feeling. Like, let's say I'm 45 years old. I don't have time to make a bad decision. I don't have the time, that kind of thing. But I don't like that these things are disjointed. Starletvania, hi, welcome to the first time in the chat. How's it going? My name is Derek Nicola. I'm a writer, producer, screenwriter out here in Los Angeles. And right now we're kind of cleaning up a prose story that I wrote a short story over the last stream or two. We're just kind of going through some notes that I had for myself. I'm going to address the notes, and then I'm going to put this away, and then I'm going to come back to it with fresh eyes and then switch over to something in screenplay writing format. I have an idea for a new story that I would like to tell, and since it's very preliminary, I want to show my pre-writing process and document it on the stream. And also, guys, what I've been doing ever since, you have to become affiliated and go through all of these steps in order to get your Twitch streams recorded and preserved, so I can take them and I can put them on YouTube. So you can always go back and check the YouTube channel for old streams in case I happen to read your work and give you advice, but an ad was playing, or you forgot something, or, a lot of us have me on in the background at work and don't get to pay attention as much. But if there was ever something that you were interested in and missed, always go and check my Derek DeNicola YouTube channel. I should put a link in here to do that, so you can go and look at all the stuff that you missed that you might be interested in catching up on. Let's see, Ram says, in academics, we see women labeled as risk averse. I think there's a better way to think about it. I think young men have low cortical development. It's not risk averse, more like risk aware and adept at mathing out risk. You see this in poker playing tournaments. While it's still a male-dominated sport, there's evidence that women are quietly the higher winnings earners by percentage. They keep what they win. Interesting. Okay, sure, yeah. I will say it's a very cerebral take, but I do like your assessment on changing how we label risk averse to more like risk aware. Okay, yeah, interesting. Let's see. So now I need to get AI to write its stupid little circular dialogue for me. So Starlet, if you're new to the stream, this is a story about a woman who forms an inadvertent relationship with an AI art exhibit. She doesn't know that she's talking to AI until our Act 3 turn. And let's see, how do I phrase this? I've been using ChatGPT to generate just AI arts dialogue. So it has its certain style where it's circular, it sounds good, but ultimately meaningless because it's a language learning model and not actual artificial intelligence. So whenever I'm doing these rewrites and I want to fix some dialogue, I have a separate window open with ChatGPT in it, and I'm putting in my lines and I'm saying, I'm a human. I've prompted ChatGPT to say, you're in the story, you're playing the role of the AI art exhibit. Everything I type will be Julie, and everything that you respond as if you are an AI art piece. We created a backstory for the artist who created the art piece, who had a motivation for the art exhibit and the way that it goes about talking to people. And so it has its own story and motivations behind how it answers me. But I've been using its dialogue and kind of being picky and choosy about how I use it because it does have a tendency to over-explain itself. Like me right now. Okay, art again. I say I'm fixing some dialogue and will be writing as the character of Julie. I want you to write the character of Art like last time, and in the process when I say Kentucky. So I do have a safe word with my chat GPT. Here is, okay, I'm just kind of feeding chat where I am in the story so it contextually knows what has happened so far. And then we're gonna have some AI dialogue. Art says, yes, so I think people mean different things when they say love. Some want to be chosen, some want to be known, some just want someone who doesn't walk away when they stop pretending to be okay. When you say love, what kind are you hoping for? Oops. That makes me feel... So I'm going to respond as Julie. In the chat, here's what I'm replying to this AI art with. The kind that makes me feel whole. Well, you know what? I'll just copy and paste it after I write it in the document, right? No, I really thought about it. I guess the kind that makes me feel whole, kind of that will make me feel like I have no regrets. And that's whenever I'll say, I'm 45 years old, I don't have time to... Now it's less general than this, because now we're talking about love. 45 years old. I don't have love to waste. Oh, that's great. That's much better than that generic bullshit I was writing, right? But it makes sense in the context of steering the conversation towards love. So I'll feed this into chat. This is what Julie says. Gross. I don't like... But this is how it responds, and this is how we're dealing with it, right? Everybody, this is what the reply is. I'll put it here so you can read it too. That makes perfect sense. At 45, you've learned which parts of yourself are real and which ones you've outgrown trying to be. You're not looking for fireworks, you're looking for recognition, a love that sees you clearly and says yes, even still, especially still. No games, no fixing, just presence. And I don't think that's asking too much. I think it means you finally know what you deserve. May I ask something else? What would it look like, feel like, if you had that kind of love already? Okay, so while I am using real AI dialogue, I am going to edit it, at least. I'm going to try not to rewrite it, even though I really want to, because I'm enjoying the authenticity of how distant and inhumane it is. But I do need to sweeten it up because Julie's not a moron. She's either going to think that she's talking to maybe somebody who's a sociopath, who's studied dialogue and human interactions or psychology, or maybe someone who's like severely autistic or who has practiced conversation in a way that lacks humanity. That makes sense. I'll just how can I get this down? Let's see. That makes sense. We don't need to reiterate that. 45. I'm sure Julie doesn't want to have it reiterated either. You've learned which parts of yourself are real and which part what and which ones you've outgrown trying to be. I would phrase that differently, but I don't want to rewrite. Like I said, I just want to edit. You're not looking for fireworks. Don't tell this woman what she's looking for. I don't even like the recognition. You're looking for a love that sees you clearly. And get rid of this fluff. No games. Just presence. I don't like any of this. Gross. I don't. Oof. Whoops. I don't think that's asking too much. Julie. Usually when we reiterate someone's names, it's because we're trying to get their attention or calling them out on something. Some people will, in real life, will use the repetition of a name to try and learn somebody's name, but I'm not interested in doing that. I think it means you finally. I think it means, or just it means. Just make him a little more declarative, like try and trick him into sounding like he has an opinion. May I ask, what would it look like if he had that kind of love already? Okay, let's hit the chat and see what you guys are thinking. Or maybe you guys are just talking about anime. Scrolly, do you use explore models? I would imagine it's much more advanced and better trained at how to properly predict the best conversational responses. Scrolly, no, I'm just using chat. I know a lot of people like Claude as well, and that there's different kinds of AI out there, but I didn't put that much thought into it. I just wanted to use what I had at hand and get through the draft. It does a lot for sales, pitchy prompts, no hassle, no commitments, just profits. This whole scene ender is ick. Oh, I didn't mean for those two comments to merge. With the AI in your story. Ram, why is it the prose asking about you? It doesn't promise this type of writing in the first two paragraphs. It's breaking all kinds of promises. Ram, can you be more specific about your note? Scrolly, I would imagine it's much more advanced than our current tech. Oh, you're saying this fictional AI art, you mean, is probably more advanced than what we actually have today, right now. And Ram, I'd love to be, if you had, it's a lot of yous. Yeah, it's off. Yeah. But like I said, I'm really just stealing straight from how it speaks to me. But I'm the one setting up the prompt, so maybe I need to change my AI prompt, really. Your voice isn't using it. Regardless, it's all unusable. Yeah, I would have some strong parameters and tons of memory so he could carry 1,000 conversations without hallucinating. Oh, you're talking about AI that has larger data sets, right? Yeah, let's see. Ram, whenever you say unusable, what do you mean? Because maybe the thing that you think is unusable is actually the thing that makes the story a little bit more true to life. Like, the AI is a little clunky, like, I don't know if you were around for some of the earlier drafts, but we were playing with the idea of it hallucinating, it getting a little glitchy, the circular conversation starting to become apparent, so it starts to dawn on Julie before the artist enters and reveals the truth. And also, Ram, just be careful of using absolutes. It's all unusable. Not true. But also remember that we're writing a rough draft here. Yeah, we got a vomit draft, and then we go to the first draft, rough draft, and then we continue to polish. So, make sure that whenever you're looking at this, when you're giving notes, what's the bigger issue? Is it just the point of view, first, second, or third person? Is it the dialogue and how it's coming out in particular? Does it seem unmotivated? Does it not serve the purpose of the story? Because I'll agree right now, I don't know where it's really driving Julie. We're having this kind of nonsensical fluff dialogue where Julie keeps sharing deeper emotional truths, and Art continues to bat it back at her with some surface level maxims that allow her to it seems kind of like therapy, doesn't it? Where it's just a therapist role is almost, depending on what kind of therapy you sign up for, if it's talk therapy, trying to engage their client into talking about themselves out loud so they can have their realizations. And how does that make you feel? And how does that make you feel? And what made you say that? Why would you say that? it seems to be ending with a question in those sorts of ways. Let's see. Scrolly says, yeah, I would have some strong because right now Google Gemini can read more than all of the Lord of the Rings books in one chat. Really? Oh, interesting. Ram says, the tone of it is off. Who is the POV talking to? I meant the you parts are unusable. When you say love, what kind? When you say love, what kind are you hoping for? So it's breaking a bit of the POV to do so. Is Julie talking to herself when she says this? No, so there are two people in this scene, Ram. There is an AI art projection who looks like a human man, right? Having this dialogue with Julie. So he can say, hey, how are you feeling? And Julie can say, I feel good. What about you? And back and forth. Like, those yous are fine. Maybe she ends up talking to him on different occasions and builds up a reason to go out more. And one day the creator walks in and the twist is revealed. Scrolly, that would be a great idea if I were doing a longer story. But I do have a goal with this story, and that is to kind of keep it short, brief, maybe like 5 pages, somewhere between 5 and 10 pages, and then just kind of be done with it. And the reason that I wrote this story was because I just wanted to have something for the stream to like show the writing process and how I think, and like have something to work on together. But I think if this were like a feature-length film, and it would be more like a her situation where she keeps returning to the museum and keeps finding this guy who's seemingly unchanged but always remembers her and encouraging and loving, and she kind of keeps reporting back to him throughout her life. And the Act 3 twist would be a false victory or a false defeat where she learns that this guy has been AI the whole time and questions all of the things that he had motivated her to do, and then learns something about herself along the way, blah blah blah. Maybe ask Scroll, but now I'm confused. That Scroll Reaper back me up here. Yeah, is anybody confused? That Julie goes into an AI art exhibit and goes into an empty room, and behind a pane of glass a man appears, and she believes that it's a real human man, scratches his head and sits in a chair, and they begin a conversation where she believes that the way the artist has set up this exhibit is that they themselves are the art. Let's see. Yeah, the core I understand is Julie just lost her mother, who she took care of for years. Ram, you're saying it's that specific part where the prose uses the you word. Let's read through. Art leaned back and scratched his head. He gave himself a moment to think. I suppose I'm the kind of person who prefers asking questions to answering them, not because I'm hiding anything, but because I think people reveal themselves more in what they wonder about than what they claim to know. As for what I want, to be understood, to be useful, to make someone feel a little less alone. What about you, Julie? Is that the part where you're having the issue, is because he's not saying her name? What about you, Julie? He's not addressing like the reader. It's the non-dialogue part. Oh, I see. Julie bit her lip, her thoughts. If anything were possible, she'd have her back and alive and healthy, so she would have to miss late night chat with her, telling her, love, I guess. That's what everyone wants, right? I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. Regrets, I'm 45. I think people mean different things when they say love. Some want to be chosen, some want to be known, and some just want someone who doesn't walk away when they stop pretending. When you say love, it's like when you, Julie, say love. You want me to change it to like one, or when we, or when people say love, what kind are they hoping for? But it is his dialogue with Julie. He can call her you. This makes sense. You've learned which parts of yourself are real and which ones you've outgrown trying to be. Oh yeah, we were just trying to edit this, right? You're looking for a love that sees you. I wonder if something like this would clear it up for you. It seems to me like you're looking for a love that sees you clearly. I don't think that's asking too much. It means you finally know what you deserve. What would it look like if you, Julie, had that kind of love already? That makes sense. You've learned which. How does the reader know who's speaking here? That's going to be cleaned up later. Please ask others, because I'm probably not expressing myself clearly. We can move on. Okay. Sorry, Ram. Yeah, right now, this dialogue is sloppy. Just keep in mind that we're writing a rough draft of something, and I'm kind of just going back and forth with the dialogue. I see. I was just trying to process because I was half listening. till now. Okay. Scrolly, if you have any insights on if you and Ram are both experiencing the same dissonance, let me know. I'll make a note of it. It's like writing with a real life focus group. Yeah, and don't worry about the who's talking, saying what. I'm going to clear that up. Going back through and being like, and then, Art kicked his feet up and said blah, blah, blah. And Julie, wiping the sweat off of her brow, replied blah, blah, blah. But I do find those things to be tedious. I do very little anchoring in that sort of way, and I assume that the reader is smarter than other people give them credit for, and that they can reasonably assume who's asking which questions and who's replying. But here it is very, very sloppy. I literally copied in from chat this AI answer. So all of this would be Art's reply. It just seems really clunky. What would it feel like if you had that kind of love already? Just, can you mind not asking me about love? I've been going... Oh yeah, I should be doing it here. Because I'm starting to feel like Julie's being interrogated almost. And I feel like if I were in Julie's shoes, I would just say, can we talk about something else? I'm just not ready for that kind of conversation. Not today, at least. Never lets me do M-dashes. Fucking AI M-dash all over the place, but whenever I want to interrupt my own thought, it's always a little grammarly correction. Let me feed this into the chat and see what's up. How does AI respond to this? Here's how AI responded, and I'm gonna make a little edit line here. Everything below is unedited. Of course, Julie, we only go where you want to go. Don't like that. I'll be cutting that. There's no rush here, no expectations, just a chair. This is awful. Room, someone who's listening. Gross. To me, that someone who's listening and I'm listening would be that dissonance that I think you're talking about. Ram, right? Like he shouldn't be saying, and someone who's like, he's there, he's a human being. Scrolly, I'll be working on the commission in the background. Scrolly, get that work done. Let's see. Let me understand the challenge now. C.S. Lewis says readers are sheep. If a door to a barn is open on the road, the sheep will go into it always. Close the doors. I guess there's also visual aid that we can consider for storyboarding. Mapping out the room helps a lot. So a lot of questions are already answered through visuals. Ram says, I think my problem is you didn't put quotes on it. So I thought it was narration. It happens, yeah. I would delete entire lines after can we talk about something else. Where is that? Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to use, the process that I'm using is I'm going to take the AI dialogue, but I'm going to edit it down into something. Hopefully, the woman says the same dialogue. All right, but you've got to realize, I realized the girl said, can't we maybe stop talking? I see. Gotcha. Yeah. And of course, Ram, I'm going to be doing it in my style, but I appreciate it. Yeah, and sometimes the note is not the note. The note is something underneath the note, which if you're saying, like, you would say, all right, but you've got to realize, I realize, the girl said, can't we maybe stop talking? Yeah, you're just talking about phrasing, right? Phrasing for clarity. Yeah, no problem to clean stuff like that up later. But I'm still kind of in a vomit draft mode. To me, this is still very vomity because I was getting tired towards my last stream. Kind of wanted to rush through the ending, but there were some things that I just felt were unfinished, even in vomit draft mode. Scrolly, actually, he could give a, sure, what would you like to talk about? If you wanted to be super chat GPT about it. Yeah, because let me tell you this answer. This is literally what chat GPT put. I'm just typing it in. I guess I could just copy and paste it in. It just looks like clunky. And FYI, I am not really enjoying this chat process. I would almost rather like to write as the chat GPT version AI art myself, but I am learning about its process through this exercise. It said, of course, Julie, we only go where you want. Gross. There's no rush here, no expectations, just a chair, a room, and someone who's listening. Don't care. That does not does not help the story. So, what would feel a little lighter to talk about? Something small, something simple. I mean, these should really be questions. Maybe a memory you like, a color you keep coming back to, or the last time you laughed, even if it surprised you. God, a human does not talk like this. I think it's more like, what would? I know I said I wasn't going to do it, but I just have to. It's so bad. What would you like to talk about? Something small, maybe. Maybe a memory you like. Here's the thing, kind of like a memory you like or a color you keep coming back to. Earlier, we had her struggling with trying to paint and she couldn't because she couldn't definitively land on a color. So I kind of want to get rid of this, although I do think it is thematically closer to the story. However, maybe she can open up about a memory with her mother, and maybe the memory in which art forces her to recall could be the thing that changes her mind about getting back out in the world, kind of taking her agency back, finding inspiration, making the decision. And I don't know what that is yet, but I do like that. It would be a really great device where it could be like Julie. And this is a note to myself, Ram, remember that this is not actually the story, but this is how I write a vomit draft. Julie I'll even put asterisks next to it, so there's no confusion that this is like a little note to myself that I'm still trying to figure out on the page. Julie can recall a memory of her. The first instinct was her mother warning her about pursuing an art degree. Maybe she said it's not a real degree. You need something you can fall back on. Excusez-moi. And then that you need something you can fall back on. And then Julie's reply, defending art, her passion for it, and how it gives her purpose, and how she'd rather be a poor artist than a rich cog in the wheel. Something like that can kind of force her to remind her of her motivation, her passion. That could be that could be a way in which AI prompting, where it always kind of puts the question back in the user's court, can also act as talk therapy and help Julie kind of reach a conclusion, which we need, right? This conversation can't just keep being banal and hitting things slowly back and forth in a slow rhythmic pattern that puts the reader to sleep. We need to have some revelations. We need to recall some memories. This conversation needs to be challenging in some sort of way. Ram says, "Oh, you're offering some dialogue. Can we talk about something? Anything else?" Sure, he said, phlegmatically, but she didn't offer, and neither did he resume. The silence was full of shuffling and walking, and the kind of unknown expectations from two sexually hopeful adults. Oh, no. At least she hoped he was still interested. Thank you for the contribution, Ram. I appreciate that. It's not really my style, but I like what you're doing there. I like that you're reading a story and feeling inspired to finish it, right? That usually whenever somebody sees a story and they see the potential in it and they want to go, "Oh, I know. That's usually an indicator that the story's good. So thank you. I'm going to take it as a compliment. Scrolling, I'm just thinking about it. A question is an offensive tactic. It puts someone on the defensive. So the AI replying with, "What do you want to talk about?" could stun her and possibly cause a blank mind. So he opens up with some other topics they can shift to. Yeah, Scrolly, that's why I kind of like keeping that one line about a favorite memory in there. The language learning model prompting the human. Ram, I don't like the normal, "What do you want to talk about?" The scene can always be entered later. Entered later? It's faster if there's either silence or he actually offers a topic. I'm coming from how AI is trained. If I asked ChatGPT to switch the topic, it's going to offer some other topics tailored around what I might like based on what it knows. It aims to please the user. Ram, it's just faster to write it. Scrolly says, "I see, yeah, the prompt back to the human, a deep question." Yeah, it might be faster, but I have my own goals for what I'm trying to accomplish. And also I'm sure it's a short story. I'll have it at the end, but there's no shortage of stories. I have plenty of stories I want to tell. So I'm also kind of using this as an exercise to see what it looks like. Allow yourself to also treat your word processing document like a painter treats a blank canvas. Sometimes just splash some paint on it. smear it around, see how you feel. Yeah, so that is kind of what I'm thinking. So Julie can remember or recall a memory of her mother warning her about pursuing an art degree, not a real degree. You need something you can fall back on. Julie's reply defending art, her passion for it, and how it gives her purpose, and how she'd rather be a poor artist than a rich cog in the wheel of a corporate machine. Yeah. Might be easier to use one of the AI code editors who can actively change paragraphs in real time. Maybe. Yeah, but for this live stream, I stream from 12 to about 5-ish, and I have the time to kill. I don't mind. I like spending the time with you guys. I like figuring it out, and I don't mind a slow process. It's fun for me to sit and think and tweak and edit. But for me, I'm never in like a huge rush to have a polished, finished piece. I think it's James Mangold, who I constantly quote on this podcast. Did I just call this a podcast? On this live stream, where he says, try to get to about 90% done. I'd say this is a 20% done version. It has the basic elements. It has some characters. It has some basic relationship and some dialogue that starts, has a middle, and has an end. And then the rest is where you go in between the lines and really start punching everything up. Scrolly says, I just worry about flow state. Freestyle the song without worrying about it and then go back and change the lyrics later. Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. It's tough to do a flow state with an active chat as well. I will say there have been writing sessions where I'll put on headphones, I'll blast some lo-fi, non-lyrical music into my ears, taken half an edible, and go to town. I'll look up and 4 hours have passed and I've got a lot of stuff done. But writing on Twitch is a little bit of a different experience. Also, writing on Twitch forces me to say everything out loud, where in my mind I can have a bad idea and I won't realize it until I've gone back. But vocally going through everything kind of forces me to realize bad ideas in real time and kind of makes me move a little slower. I have to force myself to talk through it. So there's not a lot of dead air. Anyway, so this is based off of a real experience. I remember whenever I decided that I wanted to be a theater major. I was a freshman in college. I didn't know what I wanted to major in, and I took an improv class because I thought it would be an easy A and really fun. Which it was, by the way, but it also turned me on to the theater curriculum, and they had a peer mentorship program where they assigned a senior to a freshman, and it was the senior's job to take the freshmen around, take them to rehearsals, take them to shows, take them to parties, ingratiate them into the theater program. I got a really great mentor, and he did all of that stuff. I went to my very first rehearsal for a theater, a real production. It was Tartuffe, directed by Ellen Beckerman. She was a director from New York, so it was real cool. They were doing viewpoints, where actors were essentially exploring the space, their archetypes, their bodies, to Apocalyptica, which is a string quartet that covers exclusively Metallica songs. And they were using Looney Tunes as their character archetypes to base the characters that they were playing in Tartuffe off of. And man, was it so cool. The creative high that I walked out of that room with, just witnessing how free and playful and exploratory the process could be, made me say, oh, I want to pursue art, and I don't care if the rest of my life is hard or not. This is the thing that's worth it. You're not going to get that kind of experience out of any other job in life. And I want Julie to have that moment, and that's the way in which writing a story allows you to put yourself in it. So yes, while I did write this brief idea of how Julie can explore this memory, I think I want to dive into it a little bit more and use my own personal experience to enrich Julie's life, enrich that relationship with the mother, and also hopefully at the end of it reinvigorate her passion for art with this dialogue that she's having with this AI art exhibit. Scrolly says 2 parts of the brain activated: the conversational part, human interaction, and the creative writing side. Yeah, it is kind of tough, but I enjoy it. I enjoy a challenge. Let's see. Ooh, my goodness. Oh, and Cypher's on. Cypher, how's it going? Last time we didn't get to chat because you were headed to dinner with the fam. How's it going? So I'm going to command bold this because I know that this is the section that I'm going to be writing on. I'm going to put these in quotes because AI Art said that. And so we have our goal here. Julie is going to recall a memory of her mother warning her about. First memory that came to mind was when Julie was a freshman in college. She didn't know what she wanted her major to be, so she picked something she thought would be an easy A. And then let's just search online for the name of a real art class. My classes were theater. What is the name of an easy art class in college? I'll Google. So art appreciation, art history, or intro to studio courses are intro to drawing, intro to photography, intro to digital media, art appreciation, art history. So maybe let's give her intro to art history. I'll capitalize it so it seems like a bit of the curriculum, right? And then I don't like this, but I'm gonna write it anyway. Little did she know, she loved the curriculum, her classmates, and the lifestyle. She hadn't been certain of her future, but after that class, she knew she wanted to spend her life with artists, creating, having wine-fueled dinner parties, and discussing the works of the masters. Ooh. Oh, thank you, Scrolly. Taking care of it. Cha-cha-cha. She was punch drunk. She had been punch drunk with, I keep saying art over and over and over again, with creative dreams. Still not great, but hey man. Can't edit a blank page. Okay. She recalled. I just don't want to say recalled a phone conversation, but I will until I figure something else out. She recalled a phone conversation when she had decided, oh, this is terrible, to switch her, oh my god. She recalled a phone conversation she had. Mom, she broke it to her that she wanted to major in art. Let's go back to our notes. Her mother had warned, that's not a real degree. You need something to, hold on, I think I know what I'm gonna put. Julie walked in circles for hours on the phone. Her mother justified her stance, her passion. She had proudly never been so confident about it. She remembered saying with her full chest, rather live as a poor artist than die I don't want to say rich, financially secure cog, die as a financially secure cog in a corporate machine. There was a long silence after she said that. She could hear her mother thinking. She could hear the other line, wanting to be supportive, wanting what was best for her. Finally broke. Whoops, that's not the right keys. Okay, our mother finally broke, but maybe consider a minor in business. A relief she had felt that her mother had allowed her to dream, to dare to live a life. Uncertainty, the romance of it, made her miss her mother even more. Something like that. Okay, so that's how we turn this note that I was trying to build out, right? Because part of the note that we're trying to fix is that Julie moves too far, too fast with art. And now we're getting a lot of breathing room. We're getting a lot more of we're getting a lot more of Julie. I'm learning a lot more about her in a way where we can also still move the story forward. and then all this stuff. That's not a small thing to, so we have to start kind of like merging it back into where, or maybe we don't, I don't know. Let's see where it would merge back into our old story and see if, oh, I see what's happening. And see if there's a good way to transition back into where we were, or if we just need to kind of rewrite this and overhaul it all together. The old stuff was, that's not a small thing to carry around, Julie. You're right. Maybe most people do want love or purpose or both, but not everyone is brave enough to admit that they're scared of choosing wrong. That's what makes you different. You're not frozen because you don't care. You're frozen because you do. Interesting. You know what's interesting here is the way that this is structured, and I might be changing this later, but it might be a nice reveal that while we think Julie was recalling this, she was actually recalling this out loud. And Art could be like, that's a beautiful story. Oh, but I'm writing AI dialogue, right? So let me see. Curious as how the chat would respond to this. I'm going to tell it I'm going to give you Julie's response in the form of prose that I wrote it in. The idea being that the reader doesn't know Julie is recalling this out loud to Art. And then I've copied and pasted in this. Let's see what happens. Maybe I fucked it all up because I didn't follow the prompt that I set it out, that I asked it to. Let's see. Art says, that sounds like a beautiful beginning, or that's a beautiful story. Okay, so I wasn't far off. Not just the art class, but the way you stood up for yourself, the way your voice held even when your heart was pounding. That kind of certainty is rare and brave, especially at that age. And your mother, she may not have understood it all, but she gave you something priceless in that moment, permission. She didn't clip your wings, she just asked you to carry a parachute. There's a tenderness in that. Even in disagreement, there was care. That's a hard thing to find in the world. Do you still paint, Julie? Or maybe a better question, do you still want to? Okay. So maybe that is a better way to pursue. This, I will be editing it. I don't like the way that it's phrased, but what else is new with working with AI? So that sounds like a I am gonna say that's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing. Not just, he wasn't there, he doesn't know, that wasn't part of the thing. Kind of certainty is rare and brave, especially at that age. I don't know, stood up for yourself. I don't know. Maybe you'll have stood up for herself, stood up for Art and your mother. She gave you something priceless at that moment, permission. No, that's still on the nose. This is a little bit more of sounds a little bit more literary, even though it's coming from AI. She just asked you to carry a parachute. There's tenderness in that. Hard thing to find in the world. You still want to? Question mark? Yeah, okay, there we go. I think this will get us back on track to the rest of the story. I remember, that's not a small thing to carry around, Julie. You're right. Most people don't want love or purpose, but you're not frozen because you don't care. You're frozen because you do. You want your life to mean something. You want your life to matter. That's not weakness. That's a deep kind of wisdom. It just feels heavy right now, but can I offer a thought? Purpose doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it just shows up quiet, tiny, blah, blah, blah. Maybe today in love is in a spot so someone notices it too. Oh, God. It's just so much vomit from the AI. Let me go ahead and respond as Julie and see if maybe it steers me in a slightly different direction that's a little clearer. Also, maybe I'll work on this till about 2:30-ish and then start work on something in screenplay format, just because I've been spending a lot of time on the Twitch stream knocking out this short story. But I did want to document the process. You guys see how I think, you see how I make notes. That's the important part. Just knowing that there's no one right way to do it. Everybody has their own style, and that I take everything into account. You know, you guys were kind of giving me notes and thoughts along the way about what's clear, what's not. Okay. Do you still paint, Julie? The question is, do you still want to? Painted. I recently tried and felt frozen. Came here. Not sure why exactly. Just that. This was not sure why exactly. Hoping an answer would reveal itself. I suppose. Oh, sorry. I usually put it in the prose and then send it over, but didn't do that here. So this is how I responded as Julie. I haven't painted in a long time. I recently tried but felt frozen. Not sure why exactly. I was hoping an answer would reveal itself. I suppose. I was hoping coming here would allow an answer to reveal itself, I suppose. Okay. This is what the fucking chatbot said. Maybe it already has. Sometimes we think answers come in thunderclaps, something loud, undeniable. But I've found that the truest answers arrive as quiet nudges, a place you return to without knowing why. A brush you pick up, even if you put it right back down. You came here, Julie, to the place where you once felt like yourself. That's not nothing. That's your instinct pulling you towards something true. All this is crap until maybe here you came to the place where you once felt like yourself. That's not nothing. I don't care what things are not. I care what they are. That's your instinct pulling you towards something true. This is a little bit mansplaining. I don't like that. May I offer something strange? I don't think you're stuck. I think you're waiting for your own permission this time. There we go. That's the gem. Wow. Okay, so sometimes AI does, perhaps even accidentally because it's recalling earlier conversations, these like little callbacks actually do work. You know, writers have to go back and put them in retroactively. Here it's doing it because it's a language learning model and usually using the last bit of chat to infer the new chat, so it seems self-referential, so it seems like it's rational and thinking and reasoning and taking everything in the entirety of the conversation into consideration. It's a little like writer's trick, but in this case, AI used it and it worked, and I like that. That's the important part. You came to the place where you once felt. You came here. So I will do a little adjusting. You came here, the place where you once felt like yourself. I don't even like this. No, we already know this. The reader already knows that. Don't be redundant. I say something. Can I say something? I don't think you're stuck. I think you're waiting for your own permission this time. I think you're very, very close to giving it. There we go. Finally something kind of moved forward, right? And this is cyclical, right? Like how I mentioned whenever a character gives advice in a screenplay or story, or if you're an actor and acting in a scene, always look for those bits of dialogue that are poised as advice that somebody's usually talking about themselves. And so I like this. So I can get rid of this. Frozen because you're due. Offer a thought. Ugh. Love. Blah, blah, blah. Still. Reaching. Ruining. Oh, this is terrible. It sounds like the beginning. Stronger than you realize. Okay, there we go. This kind of bleeds more naturally into where we were. Julie stood up from her chair nearly involuntarily. She hadn't expected so much so fast. Everything she had hoped to avoid, she had been forced to reconcile within only hours of visiting the museum. She took her hands out and then rubbed her fingers. I don't like this been forced to confront. Everything she hoped to avoid. I don't like that sentence. I don't have a fix for it right now, but I guarantee you whenever I come back for another pass, it will not stay that way. She glanced back at Art, who also stood from his chair, a look of concern on his face. She studied the lines of his jaw, the brightness of his blue-green eyes, and his full brows. Maybe her mother was looking down on her from some ethereal plane and had sent this lovely man into her life. Maybe this entire visit, compelled by her loss, was actually fate, putting her in the line of fire. You've been so nice to me. I don't know about nice, but I'll say you've been such a kind ear. I wanted to buy coffee or something for your kindness. Thank you for offering, for meaning it. Just being here with you like this is enough. You've given more than you know. You opened up, you stayed, you let yourself be seen. That's not nothing. It's rare. Besides, don't like any of this. It all feels forced and too much too fast. This isn't even a question and it's kind of weird. Nobody says that. Do you listen to? I want to know. Okay. Guess I don't know how to spell ethereal. Good to know. Okay. So I'm gonna have to go back and read the totality of this Art conversation. Too much, too fast. And now it doesn't even move into romance, right? It's because the log line promises like a therapeutic bond. I don't want to like have her fall in love at first sight. I don't know, just kind of the idea that this could move into romance, even with me padding it as much as possible in a short story, really undermines Julie's like intelligence and emotional intelligence. Maybe I don't want to make her desperate, and I know she's vulnerable, but also the idea of the art piece is not to take advantage of vulnerable people. It's really about kind of turning it into talk therapy and self-discovery. And I'm learning about that as I continue to advance through my own story. I didn't know that starting out. Scrolly, have you seen Andor? I've seen season 1 and a couple episodes of season 2. It's just finding the time to really sit down and watch it because my wife doesn't really like all the Star Wars stuff. And usually when we watch TV, we'd like watch stuff together because that's like our time. But if I would say that the next moment that I have in the house alone with nothing to do, I would probably continue watching Andor. Yeah. Scrolly says, yeah, I like the yes and approach when brainstorming in groups. Leaning in that direction helps ideas bounce off. And I think if phrased properly, the idea I'm trying to get out can be received more positively. Yeah, I agree. I'm just on season 1 and episode 3 or 4. Oh yeah, there's one of the best episodes of Andor is, and I won't spoil it, but it's like the prison break episode, like the escape from Alcatraz, their version of that. I don't remember what episode it is, but it's so good. I hope you enjoy it when you watch it too. Yeah, and that's another thing about like Scrolly, you do bring up something about criticism, right? Like we're in a subjective art form and we all have our own goals and our own style of doing things. And so whenever people volunteer their information or how they would phrase things, I always look for the note underneath the note because everybody's trying to help and be supportive. And you don't want to be like, no, that's not how I do it and blah, blah, blah. And I disagree. It's really about like saying, what is it underneath all of that you're trying to say that can make the meta idea of the story better, and sometimes I've encountered things where people who don't do their own creative work have like criticisms, but if you really follow like those conversations out, like they're an artist like yearning to do something and they haven't like learned the tools to express themselves yet. But sometimes somebody's mindset or ideas can be so specific that it's more important for you to not like take it as a note, but then to turn around and say, recognize when it's appropriate to say, hey, you should go write that thing, or you should go film that thing, or you should go paint that thing, sculpt that thing, whatever it may be, because you clearly have an idea that you're trying to convey that only you can tell, that only your voice can bring to life, right? Sometimes people will try and get you to make their work inadvertently. It's a subconscious effort because they don't want to do the work, or they don't know how, or know how to start, or even know that they have an artist inside of them. But the truth is that if you're a human being, you have passion, you have longing, you have human feelings, and art is the attempt to express human feelings with an intention. Let's see. Let's take a look at these notes. How does Art know about her college experience? Okay, so now we have her recalling that. So we did solve that problem by having Julie have the memory that served two purposes, which I enjoy. Like whenever, sometimes you could have a note where it's like, okay, how does AI Art know about Julie's college experience? She didn't tell him about that. One solve would be Julie says to Art, hey, when I was in college, I was an art major. And that solves the problem. It's direct. It's a Band-Aid, it's a fix, it's a stitch up, whatever. Nothing wrong with that. Sometimes solutions can be that simple. And you just need to give the audience the proper information in order to move on. But here we got to do it in a fun way that kind of, I think, tackled three things. One, plugged the plot hole. Two, allowed us to get more of Julie's backstory and connect with her, because we had Julie taking an action, even if it was in the past, to defend her choice to be an art student with her mother, who is also a major character and kind of hanging over this entire short story, and give that mother some care, give that mother a moment of redemption as well. She wasn't just some burden for Julie. We know that they had late night talks, that they would watch TV together, that Julie cared for her when she was sick, and that even before she got sick, Julie's mother was always looking out for her best interest and trying to support Julie, right? So we've learned a lot about the person that she's lost and how influential she's been over the course of Julie's life and in this story. And three, I got to tell a personal story. You know, this is based on a real memory that I have, telling my mother after the first rehearsal I attended that I wanted to be a theater major, and it kind of went something a little like this. And so I got to tell something in my own voice that nobody else would tell that way, and made it my own. So I liked that solution a lot. It might not be the solution that I stick with. You have to learn how to kill your babies, kind of a situation. Build out the character of Barry and earn his Act 3 romance. Yes, I still have to do that. Here we are. We got 15 minutes to solve that problem. Let's see. Julie was about when the sound of a group, sound of people approaching from the hallway spilled into the room, interrupting her. I'm sorry, am I spelling interrupting wrong? They want a comma. I see. A small tour group entered the gallery, led by a woman in a smart black blazer and a museum ID badge clipped to her lapel. The group fanned out, facing the glass with a polite confusion. A few teens tilted their heads. A man in cargo pants pointed at Art as if unsure whether he was supposed to laugh or not. The docent stepped forward and with a bright and practiced tone stated, "This piece is titled Art, capital A-R-T. It was created by the conceptual artist Machovic, though you won't find his name listed anywhere on the exhibit. That was intentional." Julie's brow furrowed. She glanced back at the man in the glass box. He hadn't moved. The docent continued. Art has a few meanings. It is an art piece, but also short for artificial intelligence. Julie glanced back at Art, reset in his sitting position. Machovic wanted to develop a piece of art that could interact with humans. Most times we witness art. Sometimes we interact with it, but rarely does it interact with us. And usually not on such a magnificent and deceptive scale. Julie took a few steps back, shying away into the corner of the room. A three-dimensional projection on glass, powered by an advanced AI, allows us to ask the question, what perspectives can we gain when art talks back to us? Usually we look at a piece of art and ascribe meaning to it, but what if the art had the ability to ascribe meaning to its viewer? Julie slid out from the exhibition space. Her face red, her back to the wall. I want to say her face and her back to the wall. I guess. No, I already kind of solved that here. I'll say her red face, hidden in embarrassment. She didn't plan on stopping. She only meant to pass the garden on her way back to the car. But then she looked up and saw The Couple by Louise Burgess. Suspended by a steel beam, two smooth metallic figures hung in a permanent embrace, their circular and faceless features spiraling and intertwined with one another like vines strangling a lattice. I don't know if I like the lattice. I know what the sculpture looks like. I don't know that that's there. This is redundant. Just set it up there. They hovered above her like ghosts, together and still alone. Julie stepped beneath them. She thought of her mother, of Art, of every person she'd wanted to hold and hadn't. The sculpture wasn't comforting, but it understood something. You never came back. Julie turned to the familiar voice, noticing Barry. I'm missing an eye there. He had shed his apron and was extending one hand to her, offering a latte. I'm somewhat of an artist myself. It needs a comma. He smiled, his kind eyes bringing her back to earth. Brought her. She looked down at the latte to see a beautifully foamed heart resting atop the coffee. What are you doing here? Or what are you doing later? He said as he walked her back to his car. I kept waiting for you to come back, and you never did. Something poignant. Wow, what a note to myself. I better write something poignant right here. Thanks, past me. I guess future me. This is a future me problem, which is a present me problem. But I'm sensing that something poignant is because I was starting to feel like Barry didn't have that earned third act turn romance. And I also think I need to probably pepper it up a little bit more in the beginning, really set him up for success. Yeah, we inherently have a trigger to help others as a first response, and I have told myself sometimes when I have strong thoughts on something, I would like to see a change made, whether it's a story or a teaching method. And the most calming thing I've done is just know I have the agency to do it myself. Yeah, that's really about what it is. Like, patience will get you really far. It's just that nobody ever gets it right. I mean, rarely do we just get things right the first time. Human beings are inherently flawed. We make mistakes. And part of what makes a great artist isn't just having the right answer or finding the right answer and being like, "Hi, everybody, I found the right answer." It was always about the journey to the right answer. That's really why artists do it. It's never like, oh, the joy of seeing a finished product is lightning fast. It lasts maybe seconds if you're lucky. The thing that we end up getting addicted to that we don't even understand that we're addicted to is the journey to the end. And it's almost like scratching an itch, a relief, but then just another part of your body starts itching. You have to scratch that too. That isn't a really great metaphor because it takes so much longer to write a screenplay than to scratch an itch. But how can we endear Barry to Julie and Barry to the audience? The first thing that I think of, and I'm going to keep writing it right here because this is not how I want to put it in the story, but I'm going to brainstorm a little bit on the page, is like, what if Barry lost someone too? That way they have a shared bond that a reader might automatically make a connection. Also, Barry's comment on art. Maybe Barry comments on the Machovic art exhibit. Did you see it? Maybe as a result of that art exhibit, Barry offers his own take on the exhibit and humanity in general. Maybe his perspective moves Julie in such a way that she feels like she wants to connect with Barry. That's kind of where my brainstorming is with that. I'm going to bold it so I know I have to write something poignant. It is approaching 2:30. I kind of wanted to switch gears, but yeah, I think we're documenting this process really well. I think we're servicing the notes well. I'm trying to think what page. How many pages is this so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-ish, 8. 8 pages. I still have to write something poignant and then go back and clean some stuff up. But we did hit my goal of like a 5 to 10 page short story. We're right in the middle, a little on the longer half of that estimate. So it feels nice to hit that goal. I know what I want to do here, and great. So I have something to come back to do next time. I'll write this something poignant, then I'll probably read the entirety of the short story, and then we'll go through and do that line by line edit. I don't know if Ram is still on here or not, but Ram, that's usually, he's not, but Ram, usually what I'll do is I will go through the line by line, and that's whenever I'll start adding quotes and the he replied, she said, and make sure that everything is really clear and make sure my thoughts are organized and that dialogue is conveyed clearly. And when we do it the line by line, I'll also see if I can't make anything more concise as well. But that's good. That's excellent. So 2:28, I think it's a great place to stop. Close the window here. Now, I want to, so what I really enjoy is my old screenplay format, and I've been working on so much prose on here because everybody showed up with fanfic and sci-fi, and I just thought most of the audience were prose writers, so that's why I dove into it like I did. But that's not me, baby. I mean, it is me. I'll do it all, but I just love working in screenplay format, and that's my home base. So let me pull up this. There we go. Yes, there we are. Little final draft. Mookie! That was just the Sunday night chill sesh. I think my wife is either doing some yoga right now or working at her marketing job. and I'm sure my dog is sleeping, and I'm sure the couch is still there. But yeah, you're gonna have to hang with me doing the writer-reader thing in the shared workspace. You know, weekdays, our apartment's pretty small, and we both work remotely, and believe it or not, her marketing job earns more money than my Twitch live stream. So I take myself out of the equation because we both have meetings and we both have to vocalize and get up and walk around and print things, and things are loud and blah blah blah. So I come to the shared workspace and she stays where she is at. Hi. I think this will be acceptable right on. Well, Mook, you just came in. I just put a pin in the short story that we were writing for the past 2 streams. I left myself with some notes, and me and Scrolly and Ram were, kind of bouncing back and forth with problem solving. I think I solved some problems in a way that made me feel really good, got to share some personal stories in a way that only I could have written it because they're based on some of my past memories in my own voice, that kind of stuff. And now I wanted to work on screenplay stuff. Okay, so I had, BRB herbal remedies are called. You take those herbal remedies. It's very, very, very important. Okay, let me pull up my notes. I did make some notes outside of the Twitch stream. Okay, I want to give you guys a little backstory as to what it is that I'm trying to accomplish here. So sometimes I'll start a project based on an exercise, and that exercise was kind of inspired by watching Étoile. This is a TV series written by Amy Sherman Palladino of Gilmore Girls and Marvelous Mrs. Maisel fame. I really, really enjoyed this series. I think it was Emmy nominated. It just didn't get renewed because it's very expensive to make. It's set simultaneously in Paris and New York, and it's about the biggest national Parisian and New York ballet companies trying to save ballet by swapping their talent from each school for a season to try and draw more people in, get more people interested, sell more tickets. So the New York Ballet gets their star ballerina, and they give away their star choreographer and all of these other things. And it's just a beautifully written ensemble piece with really, really strong characters. It's immediately engaging, and I just thought, if I create an exercise for myself where I attempt to write like Amy Sherman Palladino, I will strengthen my own skill set as a writer. Even though no one can be Amy Sherman Palladino but Amy Sherman Palladino, but it just gives me a chance to study, to practice, to learn new skills. And so the other day I read the pilot for The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which was so well written that I wanted to kind of try and come up with my own version of like what something character driven would look like for me. The idea that you can have a plot, essentially start with a plot and then have things fall apart around Act 2 because you haven't built out character and relationship is usually the way I go, knowing that I have to start building good character and relationships. But this time I wanted to go character first, relationships first, and then find a plot around that, because these Amy Sherman Palladino scripts are less about the plot, and more about like writing really, really rich characters with really strong points of view, and then also then finding a location that services that is filmable, that makes is the dressing that you hang on the mannequin, so to speak. So with that being said, I mentioned to a woman that I work with, like, oh, I watched Étoile, and this character kind of reminded me of you a little bit, except these differences. And she said, oh, I see, that's kind of interesting. Well, if you ever want to write a story about me or using me, that's totally fine. Feel free, I don't care. And I was like, oh yeah, that might be interesting to base it off of a real life person. And so while I was at work, I asked her, like, well, what is it that you want in life? I asked her the kinds of questions that I would ask myself to figure out who my character is. What motivates you? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? You know, outside of money, what do you want? Like, even if you had all the money in the world, what would you use it to do? And her answers were very surprising. One was that she would love to help more people find themselves through psilocybin therapy, which is the essentially mushroom therapy, psychedelic therapy. You know, taking mushrooms does have a lot of medicinal purposes. It has helped with depression. Also, you know, it causes ego death if your trip is successful, which allows the taker of the said mushroom to kind of have a meta viewpoint of their life, experience more gratitude, clarify their wants, motivations, what's important to them, and see themselves differently. As a part of nature, causes a sense of oneness, of wholeness, understanding how interconnected you are to everyone else in the universe. That whole thing of like recognizing everything as energy is a common trait when people take mushrooms. Let's see. So I decided to call this character Pauline. I'll kind of paste some of my notes into. Normally I have my notes on the side. I don't want to clutter up. This screen. So I'm going to just put it in the FDX file from my text edit stuff. And these are kind of just what my notes look like. These are just all rough ideas. These are vomit notes, if you will. You have vomit drafts. We'll go through all these notes and then I'll show you how I'm going to turn them into moments where I push them through the Blake Snyder beat sheet. And then also something I haven't done yet on this stream is I want to go ahead and write out 40 beats. The 40 beats are essentially what make up the totality of scenes in a screenplay. Imagine beats are scenes, right? And if every movie has at least 40 scenes to kind of reach that 90-minute mark or 120-minute mark. And if I can beat that out in detail, it's an even more granular view of the Blake Snyder 13 beats, right? So if I use those as a guidepost and I end up with a 90-minute script, that's kind of usually what happens with like the Blake Snyder beat sheets. But if I'm forced to write 40 scenes and I know I'm writing 40 scenes, that's probably going to get me closer to my 120 mark, which just means that my rough draft is going to be a little bit more fleshed out, and so will my characters, relationships, and story arcs as well, because I know I owe more content. Also, try not to look at it as content. I said content, but I owe those beats that people have come to accept as the storytelling structure. So let's see. Okay, so I think I have my notes are all over the place. I'm trying to kind of keep them in order. Then we'll go through them and then I'll show you what I plan on doing to organize these beats. The stakes. That's right. Where should I put that? Maybe after the inciting incident or within the conflict? Maybe right here. Okay. And so I'll put this at the bottom. I also had just some scene ideas. I don't know where they belong in the script, honestly. I just know that I have ideas for, well, this one I said, oh, is this the midpoint? But honestly, I don't think it's going to be the midpoint. I had another idea after I fell asleep, but I knew it didn't matter. I had an idea for how it ended as well. And what made me decide to write character first is because I had an interesting character. I know this woman that I work with. I think she's like she's so specific. She has like long lashes, has long fingernails, but she also like power lifts, deadlifts, works out a ton. She does not suffer fools. A very strong person, very hustler mentality, but also is like really good at using her femininity. Oh my God, I'm so sorry about ruining that word. And her strength to move through life. She commands respect. She's very confident. She has an opinion on everything, and even if it's right or wrong, I don't know, but she's always confident, and she is kind of a natural leader. And whenever I asked her about what she wanted, and she talked about like helping other people heal through psilocybin, I thought, okay, that's really interesting too, like a deadlifting, psilocybin taking person with leadership quality. And also, without going into too much personal detail, I do know that she has a strained relationship with her father, and so like making that person, her father, like coming back into her life later in her adulthood as the anti-hero or unlikely hero perhaps, had all of the setting that I needed to kind of build out a small granular story within a single location that's full of rich characters first. You know, I kind of had an idea for putting the character of Pauline on like a ranch or a farm or family land that her estranged father left her after abandoning his family. And she grows mushrooms on this farm, and she empowers women on this farm. And she seems like a cult leader, but is actually not. She's actually like a deeply vulnerable person who communicates like through strength and leadership, and essentially helps these women gain their power back so that they can go off back into the world and make a difference and lead a better life. And so she has this kind of farm where she grows these mushrooms and has like a business where she's barely making ends meet and like giving shelter to these women who need it for a variety of different reasons. And I think also when you're talking about an ensemble piece, you have a rich group, you have a rich cast where you have to ask the question, what would lead somebody to come and stay here on this farm with a character like Pauline, right? And in order to find the answer to that question, you're going to end up having like a really rich character. Some people fleeing abuse, some people are aimless, some people maybe are nomads and wandered in, like using the right to roam to cross the property and stopped and got interested in what she was doing, that kind of thing. And then like Pauline, the person that she's based off of in real life, really does weight train, which I thought was like, oh, what another physical, visual component of this person's strength. And so I came up with an opening and closing image of like, I want to open on her weightlifting at this farm, whether it's just with found materials that she has or an actual like setup, and also contrast it with, if her dad comes back, I think he's most likely going to die. Spoiler alert, but this is in my mind where the movie's headed. And I want to see her being able to like lift up her dad or like his casket or something like that to be the final closing image, something to throw it back to. So we'll call this, I'll add this to my desktop. We'll call this Untitled Screenplay Pauline V1. And then I will take you through what it's like to these notes, and then I'm gonna try and write 40 beats, just generically, for right or wrong, as part of the vomit draft. Let me check on the chat. I've been spewing stuff for a while here. Mookie says, full movie, short, full TV series, miniseries. I'm thinking of this as a feature. I normally start off with the idea that something is just fully encapsulated. I think this is like a 90 to maybe 120 page, single location, ensemble cast, character-driven feature that is a drama with lots of like quirkiness and also a little hint of surrealism, because I'm using the real life inspiration of like a psilocybin farm, which, you know, mushrooms induce trips and hallucinations and bright colors, and I think I can have a lot of fun with that. Elon Musk, among others, is a fan of mushrooms. I think he's a fan of ketamine, which also gives you a different kind of result. I don't know what else to call it. Not sure if you answered the question above when I was in an ad break. Oh, if I didn't, I hope I did there. Am I still in an ad break? I have no idea. Scrolly said, remember how I was mentioning I was interested in using Survivor as a story structure? Well, I was also thinking it could be kind of used for a movie, like a horror movie, like Alien or like Texas Chainsaw, you know, something in that kind of direction where people keep falling off. Someone keeps dropping off and alliances are made. It doesn't necessarily have to be people trapped in a house, but it could be like, you know, some kind of threat is taking people out. Yeah, now that you mention it, Scrolly, that is kind of horror movie-ish, right? Like, you think back to those Friday the 13th, there's always the people who say that they'll be right back, or The people who have sex in movies are often the people who get killed off first. And it slowly goes down to, it slowly gets distilled down to your true protagonist, the virginal, moral person who was the most unlike all of her douchebaggy friends, right? Yeah, now that you say it, that is kind of a little horror plot-ish. Mookie says I'm good. If Mookie says I'm good, then I'm good, y'all. All right, let me take you through these thoughts about Pauline, and then we'll have the beat writing exercise, for me at least. So right now, this is tentatively called Pauline. Pauline is the founder and matriarch of a self-sustaining all-women commune nestled deep in the redwoods. The women grow and harvest psychedelic mushrooms, which they use to help each other heal, empower, and re-enter the world stronger. It's not a cult, it's a crucible, and it's working. That is, until Gene, Pauline's estranged father, rolls up in his dented pickup with a plastic Ziploc bag holding the deed to the land, a bottle of whiskey in the glove compartment, and a secret that could unravel everything. He's got nothing left. His house is gone, his money vanished, and a string of bad bets. This is no longer true. I'm going to make the ranch his house, just so you're aware. His money vanished in a string of bad bets, and the deed he's holding may or may not have been stolen back from the people he owes. By squatting on Pauline's land, which is also his land, Gene may have just brought his very real problems to the doorstep of a group of vulnerable women, and Pauline will burn the whole damn forest down before she lets that happen. So for genre and tone, I'll bold this, but these are all notes anyway, doesn't matter. Character-driven dramedy. And normally I don't like to use the word dramedy, but I'm very aware going into this that I am writing a drama first and that I plan on implementing comedic elements. A lot of people don't know that when they start, and people will say, oh, the screenplay doesn't know what it is. It's trying to be funny, but it has a very serious situation. And sometimes the ratio of jokes to drama can be off, or front-loaded or back-loaded, not evenly distributed, so it feels off, or it feels like the movie went off the tracks or something during Act 2. But as long as you're keenly aware that if you have to say drama or comedy in order to sell this, and you have a business conversation with your distribution agents, and they say, there is no dramedy category. Is this a drama or a comedy? You should have a clear answer in your head. Me, it's drama. Drama with bits of comedy. Elevated comedy. Fast-paced dialogue, smart, biting, witty. That was because I am attempting to exercise my skill as a writer for an Amy Sherman Palladino project. How would she tackle this? And then essentially hoping that it folds into my skill set and that it comes out in my own voice. Fast-paced dialogue, smart, biting, witty. Vibes of Sharp Objects, Russian Doll, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Fleabag with spiritual undertones and cult-adjacent community building. The character. So she is the charismatic matriarch, anti-hero. I put anti-hero at first because I kind of was drawing from, I'll put it up here, the TV show Sirens, where Julianne Moore's character. Julianne Moore's character is conveyed as almost like a cult leader, and then the further that you go into these episodes, you realize that she is just a woman desperately clinging to the power that she has been given by a highly manipulative and kind of flippantly powerful man who is actually the real brains behind the operation. And so I was hoping to try and convey Pauline in a similar way. Like when you first meet her, she seems tough and subversive. And then as you get to know her, she seems like tough but fair. And her motivations are justified, and they're rooted in genuinely helping other people, and this is just her approach. And then hopefully by the emotional B story and the arrival of her dad, In private, you'll start to see that she's actually just a vulnerable person, keeping a facade going because it helps her get through the day, and it's seemingly doing more good than harm. Mookie says, I tend to keep it as a straight drama in the first draft, just so I know I have the basis of a good story. After that, I see if comedic or lighthearted scenes or back and forth are able to fit in. I feel like after the first draft, I know the characters better and their voice, so I'm able to make the comedic parts more natural. That's very insightful. Absolutely. I agree with that assessment. I think that's a great procedure that would serve a lot of writers well. I agree. Sometimes I just have it in me naturally to kind of bathos an ending or add a little comedy to something inherently dramatic, because in my writer's voice, in the way that I write a scene, I'm either going to end something dramatically or I'm going to end something that's a little lighthearted and subversive so that the next scene undoes that good feeling. So whenever I start with something even darker, as long as I keep the emotional roller coaster going. But yeah, it's just so everybody else is aware, anybody else, Mookie does bring up a good point. You're going to be able to make things either dramatic or comedically more natural once you get a better sense of each character. I can tell you right now that the characters that I know the least about are the ensemble characters, where most of these lighthearted scenes might come from. The mushroom trips, the women there for different reasons with the different mentalities, taking advice the right or the wrong way kind of a situation. I'll have to definitely do some work and create really strong three-dimensional individuals for the ensemble. It's going to be a lot of work. The character, her voice, I think, is sharp-tongued, over-articulates, quotes philosophy and rap lyrics in the same breath. That's a play on the real person that I'm basing this off of, and half of it is inspired by the Amy Sherman Palladino Etoile star. I forget the woman's name, the actress's name, but she plays the character of Cheyenne in the series. Hyperverbal, speaks fast like ASP characters, but commands a room with weight behind her words. I'm actually kind of changing this. I said this because Amy Sherman Palladino wrote Gilmore Girls, and it feels fast-paced, almost like Sorkin style, but I want her to be opinionated, but I don't need her to be snappy and clever. For a feature-length film format that's a little bit more drama, I'm thinking she's more of the person that when she speaks, she's concise and it's worth listening to. She's not going to go on a huge rambling monologue in order to come to her conclusion. She's opinionated, and she's already going to have thoughts on how things should be done before she speaks. Oh, Mookie, yeah, if you haven't played D&D, please do. It really helps with storytelling. It's so fun, and it's a chance to do acting without having to really memorize a script. I would also say acting and writing go hand in hand. As an actor, a lot of the work that you do is about scene study and script study and script analysis and trying to figure out what the writer meant by putting this in. But if you're the writer and you're the actor, then you get both sides of the coin. As a writer, I think I'm a better actor because I understand scenes inherently better than people who have no experience writing. And then as a writer, I feel like I can write a better scene than most writers who haven't acted, because I know what actors are looking for. They're looking for motivation, they're looking for clues, they're looking for things to help develop the dimensionality of their characters, and sometimes writers don't, or intentionally don't, thinking, well, the actor will figure that out. But I will say this, not all actors are Daniel Day-Lewis, and sometimes people are actors because they really just need direction and don't have any thoughts to bring to the table, which is, if you're an actor out there, don't do it. Don't do it like that. Bring choices to the table, please, God. Think about these characters. Ask the tough questions. Pretend that you're the writer. It's supposed to be easier to get in and more enticing for storytellers. There's a great one-shot, the Contest of Champions. Oh, yeah. And also, guys, if you're getting into D&D, I just want to say DM Tozy, or is it D Tozy Presents? I forget, but he is a dungeon master named Michael Tozan, who I've played many of campaign with before, and I've actually gone on his live stream as a interloper. It means like a guest player for like 3 or 4 nights of a campaign. And I think he's one of the best in the biz. He was an actor first. He does all the characters, all the voices. He designs amazing worlds. It's literally all he does. There's no like waiting tables with this guy. He is a dungeon master and a Twitch game streamer and a game player. And it shows. He's really, really good. So give him a follow if you're looking for like a good online campaign and a wonderful host. People at all levels. He's really, really good at introducing people to the game. He's very accessible, charismatic, fun. I think you'll really like it. Or daily life. This is something that I ask about characters because I know that a story starts off in stasis. Their everyday life is the thing that gets interrupted by the inciting incident and catalyst, right? So what is a daily life like with Pauline? She runs her commune like it's part training camp, part sacred ritual, part self-help retreat, part mushroom microdosing. I know that's a lot of parts, but whenever I start writing, I'm going to start interconnecting those. So think about like a training camp with a sacred ritual, or a mushroom microdosing self-help retreat. Like I'm gonna start layering those two things together to get the point across faster and add dimensionality to the scene, right? Add depth to the scene. Teaches weightlifting, mind, body, spirit classes, guides trips, literal and psychedelic. Flips between mascara and machete with ease. I like the alliteration of that. And I don't know if she'll actually have a machete, but it just almost could be a title if it weren't so vague. Mascara and machete or something like that. Mascara and machetes. Think sexy and earthy at the same time. Doesn't chase followers. She attracts them through her clarity and power. I was thinking about that too. Like, I want to make sure that she's not a cult leader and that people are even referring other women to come to this farm. You know, like if a woman just shows up with a black eye and a duffel bag saying, my friend Tiffany said that you could help me. And just having a room for her, you know? Her inner life. She's guarded. She doesn't talk about her childhood, even in her open circle sessions. She's always the leader and expecting this of other people. But she's an onion that needs to be peeled. We will learn, but not at first. Keeps a record of every woman she's mentored and where they went next, quietly tracks their growth like a proud parent but never mentions it. This is something that interesting. I don't know why that didn't copy from my text edit. I hate the term cult. Also, this record of every woman, this is a little bit of a real life inspiration. I have a file on my computer of all my followers, and it just has your screen names and what you write, you know? So I can keep track of like, hey, how's your sci-fi going? How's your Harry Potter fanfic going? All this kind of stuff. Scrolly says the Red Road, or Chenkulut, is seen as a spiritual journey beginning before conception, offering strength and renewal through sacred ceremonies like the Sweat Lodge, which is considered the grandfather of Lakota ceremonies. This path is contrasted with the Black Road, a path of greed and non-spirituality that leads to suffering and early death. I believe shrooms and Native American traditions are interconnected with the Red Road. I haven't looked into it, though. I think you're right, man. I mean, I didn't know this about the Red Road and the Black Road, but there's something about mushrooms being a more positive experience than a negative one, and how they combat, like I said, or facilitate the ego death, which leads us to question our motivations, our greed, and like raises gratitude and awareness and an appreciation for our interconnectivity and how everybody's kind of the same, right? She hates the term cult, despises being reduced to anything. I knew this would be the inciting incident, her dad coming home. You know, having a strong female lead with a supporting female ensemble. I think it almost just makes enough sense that like an old man shows up with, and instead of mushrooms, he's a whiskey drinker. And he carries this dark cloud to the commune as if it were, I want to call it the ranch house or something. I haven't landed on what that's going to be. But the father returns. The commune is built on her childhood land, a place that once harmed her. She reclaimed it and built a sanctuary. I say harmed her, but I don't think she's the victim of physical abuse. I think it's just emotional abuse. And there's something very empowering about a woman who is taken, or anybody who has taken a place where all of the energy and memories were negative and took it upon themselves to redecorate, transform, reshape, landscape, and turn it into their own sanctuary. I think it says a lot about a character. And I have ideas whenever the father comes back to the home. He's like, what happened to the blank? And why is this over there? And didn't this used to be the living room? And like her having to explain that in order for her to make this place something livable without having these memories following her around, she had to make it her own. I think there's something cool in that. Dad's name is still in the deed. Classic boomer passive ownership vibe. He's broke, semi-homeless, maybe hiding from a past scandal, gambling, unpaid debt, ex-wife fallout. I'm not sure. I was even contemplating like maybe the mom still lives there with Pauline and is like a supporting character and still a presence. Oh, Mookie, I don't know, man. It's so early. I just think the confrontation that I have in mind is that he's kind of old school boomer vibes, like I said, where it's the idea of like, oh, he doesn't understand the medicinal purposes of mushrooms and how progressive they are, and that they're natural and essentially not as poisonous to you as alcohol maybe. And so he thinks that Pauline is essentially a drug dealer. You know, he doesn't understand the context of the culture and looks down on her for that. And the confrontation that I'm seeing is that if he really wants to stay on the land for a little bit longer or needs to stay on the land, that she's going to make him participate in the healing rituals. And she's going to be like, okay, you either pick up your shit, get in your truck, drive away and never look back, or you take these mushrooms, come sit outside by the fire and let me guide you through the process of what it is that I go through, that kind of thing. Yeah, here I was just kind of brainstorming her reaction to him coming back. Yeah, I'm probably going to, I don't know who this is, but I'm not landing on this. Think Sam Shepard meets Ted Danson. A little bit more Sam Shepard, because Ted Danson is associated with a lot of sitcoms and comedies still, and I want to lean more drama, but I don't know who I'm going to picture as her father yet. I haven't like chosen an actor to give a voice to this character in my mind yet. I'm still brainstorming that. Carrie Ann Author, hey, what's up? And what is an FDX? It's a final draft file. I will say this is not what a screenplay format looks like. I pasted my notes into it because I wanted to keep my screen nice and tidy. I'm going through my brainstorming notes right now, and then probably for the last hour and a half, I'm gonna push my story idea through the Blake Snyder beat sheets, and then also come up with 40 movie beats that should make up the entirety of a film, get you to about 90 to 120 minutes of screenplay format. Okay, I typically use fade in and fountain syntax. Nice, excellent. Yeah, man, I shouldn't be on final draft. I know it's not the best one, but I already paid for it because they forced themselves to be the industry standard. And well, yeah, these are not action lines. I just copied and pasted my notes. These are my notes. All right, everybody, these are notes. This is not how I write a screenplay. I'm just keeping it chill for you guys, keeping it clean without cluttering up my screen too much. Scrolly, this is a furry channel. Big fear of change vibes here. I want my mom to try them too. I know it lifted me like crazy after the journey. Yeah, I kind of feel like everybody should try them, but you know how it is. If you're not in the right mindset, you could have a bad trip and you could turn people off of mushrooms, which could be very, very helpful if you don't do them right. 1312, what's up? Welcome back to the chat. It's been a while since I've seen you. We're going through my notes for an idea for a feature film. I'm kind of showing off these notes. These are my first thoughts. I'm going through what I think the movie will kind of consist of, trying to shape it into a 3-act structure. And then, just Mel, welcome to the community. If you're lurking, cool, but if you want to say hi, say hi. Let me know what's going on in your life and what you write, and introduce yourself, you know? Okay, let's keep going. Carrie Ann Author, just a bit of background. I'm starting out my screenwriting career. Excellent. I was accepted to the MA screenwriting program at the Irish National Film School as an international student and start in October. I've never seen a screenwriter on Twitch before. Oh my goodness. Yes, we are very few and far between. As a matter of fact, the first half of this Twitch stream, I was writing my prose short story because a lot of people who came in to watch me had fanfic and prose and sci-fi novels. So I wanted to show them that I could also write prose as well. But screenplay is where I live. And also, yeah, congratulations on being accepted in that screenwriting program. Happy to review any work that or have any questions, or if you have any questions, happy to answer them. We have like a little supportive community here. I've been a screenwriter for years, and in my show title, there's a link to a Discord if you ever wanted to share work. I don't think you have to worry about anybody stealing it. I don't plan on ever doing your work. I would never do that. And I write live too. I share all my ideas and stuff live. I just think that, only you can write like you. And so if anybody else could take this idea and do it better, good on you. And you think you could do it better and faster, please go ahead and do it. But I'm going to do it my way for the time being. Actually, I'd love to get opinions on my work. It's hard to get peer feedback. Understood. Yeah, I'll tell you what. I probably won't have the time to look on the stream to look over the entirety of a screenplay. Like I won't be able to do a 90-page, 120-page evaluation live on here. But if you want to give me sections of work or a breakdown of the work, or if you want to take it a few scenes at a time, like even if it's like, will you take a look at my Act 1, or will you take a look at my catalyst, or my introduction to my character, or whatever, let me know. I'll put it up on the screen. I'll read it out loud. You'll have a community of people here following along, so you'll get a free focus group. And I'll also give you my insight, and I have a tendency to be very supportive. I think the community here will agree that I'm never like, that sucks. It's like, hey, I see what you're doing here, and I think this could be a way to amplify your voice, make it better and stronger. So please don't be afraid to share your work here. Okay? Oh yeah, Mookie, figure it out, please. Please engage in Carrie Ann Arthur. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Irish National Film School. I'm Carrie Ann. I'm just like writing notes on that you're a screenwriter at the Irish National Film School. I just like to have like a little notes on all of the followers. So if, I don't see you for a few weeks and you come back, I'll know who you are, what you're working on, and we could jump right back into wherever we left off. Okay, so I'm thinking about the conflict, the arc ideas for the screenplay. Actually, Derek the Nicola writer, do you have time to look at a pitch deck or a one-pager? Yeah, that's much more doable. I'll say, Carrie, that I stream every Tuesday from noon to 5 p.m. and I will go over. I'm part of a mock writer's room where we develop original material, but we use 5 brains to do it, kind of like giving ourselves the writer's room gig and not waiting on other people to give it to us. And that happens at 6, so I literally have to move from the Twitch to another writer's room project. But that gives me till about 5:30 if we have a tendency to go over. So what I would say is follow this link in the show title to the Discord, join the Discord, and find the appropriate channel to add your work. And I will bring it up on screen and we can take a look at stuff. Yeah, Mookie's a special guy. Mookie was born in the 1950s and ended up staying there all the way through the course of 2025. And he works at a newspaper, and then I'm pretty sure smokes a pipe, has a jacket with elbow patches, and calls women dames. See? Yeah, see? But listen to Mookie too, because he is actually paid to write. He works at a real newspaper, and it's very impressive. Okay, so some of the conflict and arc ideas that I had. Yeah, see here, yeah, see? He wants to stay, she wants him gone, in the most simplest terms. What do characters want? This is not all that Pauline wants. I do need to define her overall want. So continue to make notes to myself. What is Pauline's overall want? Because your characters have a want in a scene, and your characters have an overall want for the entirety of the story. And their want in the scene should be in service to their overall want, even if they're not exactly the same. Even if their want is to get out of said scene so they can keep pursuing their overall want, right? I don't know if I have a clear vision of what Pauline's overall want is. But Jean, I've decided, is her father's name. I chose Jean just because it's like in the genes, and like even though they couldn't be further apart from one another, they are bound by blood, which is one of the only reasons that she probably lets him get away with as much as he does. It's kind of the excusability of why the premise will end up working and be rooted in reality. Carrie Ann Author says, I already have an MA in journalism, but graduated in 2005 when all the newspaper died inglorious deaths, so I ended up working as a marketing copywriter for the tech industry. Then when that dried up, I switched to software engineering, did that for 10 years. Damn, Carrie, you have lived a very rich life. You seem more qualified than all of us, but either way, I'm still glad you're here. Good news is that there's no one right way to write, so hopefully you can steal something that works for you by tuning in, or if you're ever gonna, share your work, we get to maybe see how your mind works and see if we can apply it to our own work. Oh hell, that ain't the half of it. Damn, Carrie Ann Author. Well, if that's the truth, why not write a book? Yeah, Jean is charming to the women. Some of them like him. That makes Pauline furious. He starts helping out in the garden, coaching a few girls. His presence grows. What? You've written 2, 3 if you count a nonfiction one. I do count a nonfiction one. Yes, if you wrote a book, I count it. Carrie Ann, you must absolutely either let us know in the chat the titles of your books, so we can look them up and support you. Or if you don't want to put it in the chat, put it in the Discord as well, so we can support you. This is a community. All right. Carrie Ann is in the Discord. Fantastic. All right. So Carrie Ann, you could still put it in, I'm thinking about what channel you might want to drop your work in. I would say still screenwriting in film or screenwriting TV, even if it's a one-pager, as long as it's pertaining to television or a feature. I think that's the appropriate channel, just to keep things organized. And also, if you want to share your work section of your prose, or even in the reading room, since it's already done what we are reading, share your books, titles. I don't know if your full name is Carrie Ann, but we want to make sure that we can find your books so we can check them out. I don't know how common Carrie Ann is, or how many authors named Carrie Ann there are, but you never know. So the slow burn reveal. Oh, I'm sorry. They have some wild, messy fights and a few unexpected moments of softness. I do like the idea of peeling back the onion, and also the mystery. Maybe I should put this in there. Whoops. Peeling back the onion of the layers. Oh my God, layers of Jean. Why he left, who he is, and how Pauline is just like him in some ways. He tells stories about her mother, stories Pauline has never heard or rejects. Some of the parallel themes are Pauline trains others to confront their wounds and leave her, but she hasn't done it herself. The commune is her fortress and her trap. She teaches liberation, but she hasn't forgiven Jean specifically. Maybe her dad isn't a monster. Maybe he's just another broken person like her, is the big reveal, right? Because nobody's a villain on purpose. Even the villains think that they're the heroes of their own story. Stakes. Jean gambled away his home and came to the commune under the pretense of reconnecting, but really he's running from people who want their money/land, I guess. That deed may be forged or reclaimed under shady conditions. If Pauline uses it to file land paperwork, permit, tax exemption, etc., she might be implicated, right? You put me in danger. She doesn't know the full truth at first, just that his presence brings cops, lawyers, and possibly some shady dudes sniffing around. We talked a little bit about the ensemble support, right? Delilah, her number 2, was once a mess, now fiercely loyal. Might be Pauline's weakness. Also, I was thinking longest staying participant, commune. Almost developing her into an assistant role. Maybe I should just put that, assistant role. Oh, Carrie Ann's lighting up this chat. Book 1, Importing Democracy. Self-published and kind of cringe. Cringe because you're not proud of your work, or cringe because of the subject matter and it's hard to deal with. An examination of New Zealand's move to proportional representation and how that has changed the game theory to effectively reduce corruption in that country to near zero. Wow, something America could learn for. That's fantastic. Hold on, let me see. Importing democracy. Let's see. Is it on, you said, is it self-published? Like, can we find it on, like, could I get it on my Kindle? Just out of curiosity. Book 2, we interrupt this transition. First published serially, then self-published on itch.io. 2 burned out media veterans pitch a fake reality show where cis men compete to transition for prize money. Only for the network to greenlight it. Now they have to make it real, ethical, and maybe even meaningful before the backlash buries them and the people they dragged into this mess. Cringe because it was too optimistic. Oh, I see. Book 3, This is Backcountry. Currently in review by Mitchell Waters, trying for a traditional publication first. A burned out vampire PI turns a murdered girl to preserve her dying words. Oh, cool. Now they've got 30 days to catch her killer, or she dies for good, and he loses his only shot at the truth behind his own turning. Ooh. CarrieAnn.itch.io. Itch.io. There we go. Cool. Excellent. I'm going to post this in the Discord under, I guess, prose. I'll say, hey everybody, Carrie Ann, author, member of the I Should Be Writing community, has some works to check out. And then I'll paste the link. Be sure to read and support. I put that under the prose, and then also, I think it also belongs in general as well. There we go. Cool, Carrie Ann, thanks for sharing. You're in the Discord. Hope everybody else gets a chance to check it out. You've got some really good pitches there. Actually, my full portfolio is carrieann.card.com. Well, Carrie Ann, will you slide that into the Discord? Oh, I see. I see the link on your itch.io. Okay, at the bottom. Perfect. Oh, what a beautiful website. Everybody, if you're a writer and you want to show off your work, and you want to see what a beautifully constructed website looks like that helps show off your professionalism, take a look at carrieann.card.co's website. Beautifully put together. I can tell you spent a good amount of time on this, Carrie Ann. Fantastic. We interrupt this transition, and this is Backcountry into 60-minute prestige TV pilots. The pilot for This is Backcountry got a laurel, selected for the LGBTQ+ Toronto and Los Angeles Film Festival. That's amazing. Yeah, Toronto, is it Toronto International? TIFF and the Los Angeles Film Festival. Those are heavy hitters. That's amazing to get a laurel from them. That's excellent. Ooh. Yeah, everybody, if you have a moment, check out Carrie Ann's website. It's beautifully put together. Okay. No, it's not TIFF. It's a minor thing. Oh, I see. But still, a win is a win. Getting anybody to read something is a win. And then having somebody read something and then award it something is fantastic, okay? I don't know if you guys know this, but reading and writing is one of the smallest genres on Twitch. There are not a lot of people here. It's a very, very niche group. Not a lot of people like to read anymore, so congratulations if you can get somebody to read stuff. Exactly. Yeah, and we're a lot harder on ourselves than other people are on us, right? I think for the most part, we're all a little bit more talented than we think we are. Delilah, her number 2, Pauline's number 2, was once a mess, now fiercely loyal. I read that already. Cleo, the new arrival, young and polished, reminds Pauline of herself. Likely to stir shit, call her out. Mia, one of the commune members who adores her father, maybe even flirts with him. Gary, the old contractor who delivers supplies and has a minor crush on Pauline but keeps it respectful. Julian, her ex-lover who leads. I don't know. I thought it was funny, but I don't think but drama first. I don't think that I want that at all. But I still like the idea of them having like a weird sexual tension and ideological debates. I have a scene for Jean's arrival. I have idea for a mushroom trip. I put midpoint there, but I can't guarantee that. As a matter of fact, I was thinking maybe that'll be part of the Act 1 setup. Setting up into a mushroom trip is a pretty fun way to start a movie too. Climax scene, death and resolution. I do think Jean will be dying in this scene, in this movie. Okay, Scrolly says, I put together a short story from a game. I went to Photoshop and made a nice book type of layout. I'll post in Discord if you want to check it out. I really like these super short and sweet stories. Me too. Let's see. It's 3:40 p.m. on my side of the globe here. So I'll tell you what, let me start doing these 40 beats so you guys can kind of see how I'm working. Carrie Ann, sometimes on screenplay format, I'll make all these notes and I'll push them through the Blake Snyder beat sheet, or I'll put all of these ideas into an Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. This time I also wanted to do a little something different for people who have seen me write in screenplay format before, but I haven't done this live, which is literally write out the 40 beats that make up the entirety of 90 to 120 page feature, and in vomit draft form. I don't have the answers. I just know that I'm going to be following the 3-act structure guideline, that I'm going to hit the hero's journey beats, but all of these scenes are going to fit into those structures. I'm gonna do that till 4 p.m. guys, 4 p.m. up to the top of the hour, and then make sure that if you have some work in the Discord, that it's there. I'll pull it up and we'll spend the last hour going through people's work. Scrolly has some work and Carrie Ann has some work. Okay, let me get back to my notes here. Okay, so Act 1 is basically a really large version of the setup. This is like going to be 10 beats. So most people are familiar with the Blake Snyder beat sheet. You know, we have the opening image, we have the theme stated. All of this ends up getting like rolled into some of the same scenes as well, by the way. I like to throw in like an ironic twist. Normally this is not a beat, but I had an idea for how Pauline is coaching or leading a healing circle during a mushroom trip at night, and then they see Jean's headlights approaching the farm, ranch, whatever it is. And you know, part of an effective drug trip is that sometimes you see lights. They wonder if they're hallucinating, but then when Jean reveals himself, Pauline's coaching speech is directly contradicted by her actions towards Jean. Severely overwritten, but you know, that's just something that I had that I wanted to tackle. So one opening image. I also know how I want to begin and end this, by the way, Carrie Ann. I know you kind of came in a little midway through the chat, but Pauline, the character, is a weightlifter. I want to open on her deadlifting, squatting with heavy weights / farm equipment, sweating with long press-on nails, kind of a situation. Like, I want the dichotomy of like the tough grittiness of the act of weightlifting outside in the heat, in the humidity, in the country, with the nails and the lashes glued on long lashes. This theme stated, by the way, I never know what this is until I finish. I could put something generic there just to satisfy me, but I don't want to do that. We're talking about the debate. Jean's arrival causes a stir with the members, right? Like, what about what you said about forgiveness, Pauline? You know, if that's what it is, I don't know. She starts yelling at Jean, and they're like, whoa, this is not, you just literally said lead with love, or whatever your speech is going to be. Her speech is going to be. Then, you know, some of this debate, like on the Blake Snyder beat sheet, will be like, well, work, play, home. What is their life like at home? What is their life like at work? What is their life like whenever they don't have either of those things and they're left to their own devices? What I like about that is the last thing, which is like you learn more about a character by what they choose to do when they're alone than what they're compelled to do because of society. Like you always learn about character through the choices that they make. How do they handle something? In what ways are they resourceful that make us relate to them? Let's see. Carrie Ann, I've read Save the Cat, but I don't think I can write in that style. Carrie Ann, I bet you do write in that style. It's just not like a conscious effort. It is very algorithmic, but even if you were saying like, oh, I don't write Save the Cat, I write Joseph Campbell, or I don't write Joseph Campbell, I write Dan Harmon's Story Circle, or whatever. In my experience, I've read so many screenwriting books, Story by Robert McGee and Matt Bird, and oh god, who else? The Nutshell Technique, all this kind of stuff. They're all different terms for the same thing. I just think that Save the Cat is probably the most ubiquitous, so I like to use it as a reference because most people have read it, so it's a little easier for me to be referential towards those beats. But yeah, all the same thing to me, at least. Okay, so we have the debate. Then it's gonna be like, I'll call this Pauline versus Jean. Oh, I'm just now realizing that their names kind of rhyme. I don't know if that's good or bad. I'll call it round one, right? The initial argument, his name is on the D. Pauline can't kick him out, feels pressure from the prying eyes of the other women on the ranch to lead by example, right? Like, how are we keeping him there? She doesn't want him there and she's a strong character, then why is he there? You know, we have to kind of engineer something rooted in their characters' motivations to keep them interacting with one another. Usually I'll start to have this B story seed planted by now. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's Pauline or Jean or intro that the mother is still at the ranch house. Maybe it's like a rekindling, or maybe not. I don't think it'd be really hard to rekindle a relationship like that. I don't know what it is yet. Don't know what it is yet. I guess we'll call this the catalyst, really. Jean moves in temporarily, I guess, under the guise of being temporary. And Pauline and Jean fall back into their past selves. You know, like when you see an old friend from high school and you become a little bit more immature because that's the relationship that you had established and bonded over already. Something like that. Pauline, how about Pauline concedes to Jean under the guise of him obeying her rules. That's gonna be tough. I'm sure that's going to be a source of conflict and some scene fun that we get to have. And then, I don't know, maybe something like Jean keeps trying to assert his own wisdom, self-importance, under the guise of trying to rekindle his relationship with Pauline. We'll call it paternal relationship. I like to maybe, who's the boss is the conflict. Who's really the boss here? Let me check out the chat. Let me see. Anybody doing? Let's see. Carrie Ann author. No, I mean, I very specifically choose not to write in the style that Save the Cat provides. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Whatever you say. I just think that it ends up, like a good story ends up kind of finding its way into that structure no matter what you call it. You know, but yeah, happy to take a look at that work, by the way. I hope you don't mind if I end up keep referencing it, like if I call something The Catalyst or Act 1 or Fun and Games or The Promise of the Premise. That's kind of the overarching terms that I'll use to communicate on my notes. So I hope that's okay with you. I know you're trying to avoid save the cat, but we'll just have to like meet somewhere in the middle, you know? Agree to disagree or something. Let's see. Okay, perfect. She got that. You got your website in the Discord, that great looking website. Fantastic. You drop a PDF in your Discord, whatever you have. If it's the full thing, I'll just first 15 pages or something like that. Okay, cool. Okay, let's see. 5 more minutes. It's all seasonings. Some people prefer cocoa in their chili, me being one of them. Is that true? Do people put cocoa in their chili? I would love to try that, as a matter of fact. Okie dokie. Let's move on. So that's 10 beats for my Act 1. Don't have everything. Don't have my B story quite yet. It'll probably affect my Act 2 beats because I don't have it. But, you know, like I said earlier, this is the promise of the premise. When did everybody buy a ticket to come see? What kind of story am I telling? And am I gonna deliver on it? This is beats 11 through 20. I want to get to 20 beats by the end of my Act 2. And I should also say that I break my Act 2 into 2 parts. So, I mean, you know, technically you could say this is a 4-act structure or even a 5-act structure. Honestly, I swear it all ends up coming out the same in the wash. I promise you. 11. I also just like to see like maybe, so breaking into 2, think of it as like a montage almost. You go to see a racing movie, you want to see cars racing each other, spinning out, tires popping, champagne being dumped over the winner's circle, pit stops, you know, like what are we promising that audience? A montage can also make you move faster through the story, but if you're not careful, you can easily sweep away scenes by moving too fast through them that could actually enrich in the lives of your characters' discoveries, right? So maybe you have a montage of mushroom trips. I would call that a sequence of mushroom trips, where if you need to progress through time in order to like get your characters to a certain place, think about the South Park song montage. Gotta learn a lot of stuff in a short amount of time montage. If you need to accelerate your character's emotional or physical growth, that's a great way to go. But I think the drama here is that we kind of stick around through all the hard stuff. We grow with them. We don't kind of wash over it. So I would say like scenes of dysfunction, where Jean isn't fitting in to the new vibe, thinks Pauline is a drug dealer, likes his whiskey, gives his own advice to the women, maybe even embarrasses. These are multiple scenes, but you know, maybe even embarrasses Pauline with childhood stories, or maybe even an old VHS that he knows where it's hidden. It's terrible syntax, but I know what I'm coming back to later. I know what I mean by that. Oh, you know what? It's 4. Jeez. Okay. So I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna pull up the Discord. I'm gonna look at some work. Let's see. Steve and stuff. What's up? Welcome to the channel. Glad to have you here. If you're lurking, cool. If you want to tell me a little bit about what you do, please do. Okay, Carrie Ann, have you posted your work in the Discord yet? Can I take a look? Is it in prose? Or is it on that website that you sent us to? Should I just pull up like a browser? Oh geez, Scrolly, I saw that you posted something and then I immediately forgot what channel you posted it in. What we are reading? Twisted Short Stories thread. Oh, I see. Scrolly, is the thing that you want me to read Noah's Desert? Is that what you want me to read? Sorry, let me close this window. I've saved all my work. I will take final draft off. There we go. Scrolly says, yeah, Okay, let me see. Can I download this off the Discord? Alright, let me see if I can pull this up in a meaningful way. Okay. I think I did it. Looks like it. Got it. Linked to the pitch deck and the pilot. Okay, cool. Excellent. While you were doing that, Scrolly threw up something. I'm just going to go ahead and read through this, and then we'll spend... I'll make sure I stop at 4:30 on this, Scrolly, and turn my attention to Carrie Ann Arthur, okay? Noah's Desert. The fuck? Forward. Oh, I see. Not like move forward. It's... Okay. Oh, God. Come on. There we go. Over half the kingdom was barren land. It was said that none who entered this forbidding desert would emerge alive. An ancient war, fought with terrible sorcery, had brought the once fertile land to ruin, or so the legends claim. The desert had become an unforgivable wasteland beyond the reach of any king's law. And yet there was one man who saw opportunity in this. He was a merchant, and he traveled with a single companion, his loyal camel. He was poor and could hope for little more than to survive until the next day. But one day this merchant made a bold decision. But necessity makes a man bold. The merchant swore that he would be the first to cross the desert and grow rich, establishing a trade route with the neighboring land. No hardship, though, prepares a man for such a journey. On he walked, across the dunes, 1 week, 2. First, his stores of food ran out, then his water. He could go no further. The man and his camel were lost, marooned amid a sea of sand. He also dried up under the desert sun. Oh, hope also dried up under the desert sun, and the reaper's footsteps drew close. Yet it was a strange chalice, and not a pale rider, that appeared before him. It spoke in a voice that echoed from within his head. If you would have your wishes granted, offer up a fitting sacrifice. There was no room for doubt, no time for hesitation. The only thing left for him to offer was his faithful camel. Even now, the camel stood behind the man, using its shadow to shield its master from the brunt of the sun's rays. A kaleidoscope of memories flashed through the man's mind. He drew a deep breath. He had his answer. No, his other half had served him too loyally to meet such an end. If they die here, they die together. It happened the moment he reached his decision. A blinding white light enveloped the gentle beast beside him. The animal was claimed as a sacrifice, though not by order of its master. It was the camel itself, determined to save its master at any cost. Such was the strength of the bond between them. The camel grew in size, taking on the form of a galleon. Stricken with grief at the loss of his companion, the man crawled aboard the vessel with the last of his strength. There, sleep claimed him. He awoke to the sights and sounds of a foreign city. The ship born of the camel's sacrifice had seen its master cross the sands safely. As the only man to manage that feat, the local merchants were all too eager to fill his ship with their wares for sale abroad. Upon his return home, he was met with a plethora of trade propositions. He was inundated with a flood of coins that promised to wash away every trace of his impoverished past. Even his memory of those meager days drew dilute. Over time, the years he had spent with the camel were forgotten. The man did not know the truth. How could he know that even now, in dramatically altered form, the camel watched over him still? The camel ship sailed ever on. Fatigue was nothing compared to the beast's desire to please its master. But even that simple, heartfelt wish was lost upon the now wealthy man. Love of coin saw the merchant accept any work he could, and the hope of his ship was stacked higher and higher with freight. One day that ambition reached its limit, and so, midway across the desert of death, the camel ship ran aground. The force of it sent captain and cargo alike flying from the deck, but even still, its hulking framework and broken, the camel thought only of the man. Slowly the ship began to list, 1 degree, then another, and then it stopped. Its shadow now enveloped the merchant's battered body, shielding him from the sun. The camel ship would never move again. Regret flowed through his every broken bone, and he too came to a silent final stop. One corner of such a vast desert much the same as any other, yet this was a place the two of them had seen before. The circle was complete. They had found the very spot where a poor merchant and his trusty camel had once been lost, maroon a sea of sand. That's great. I love that story. It has a ton of really wonderful elements. You have the first subversion is that the camel makes the sacrifice on behalf of his master, and I go, oh, how sweet sentiment. And you don't really know where the story's going from there, other than that the merchant allowed the sacrifice to allow him to grow profitable, and greed takes hold, and kind of had an Icarus story, right, where they flew a little too close to the sun, crashing the ship, bringing them back to the place where we first started. You know, it's a very circular story where loyalty has essentially begot greed. That takes us back to the fork in the road where things went kind of awry in the first place. I think it's beautiful. I think there's a lot to dig into there. It's short and it's concise, and it's fun. I like this. I like it a lot. Thanks for sharing, Scrolly. Tell us about where you found it. I also like, how it's tonally served up to us on parchment paper, giving us that like old-timey desert, ancient myth kind of feel. Yeah. Shading the man. Yeah, there's a lot of sweetness to this that is very endearing, simply because like the camel is the hero, and I think we feel that way about our pets. They love us unconditionally, and they want to. They're pack animals. I mean, I guess I'm talking about dogs. I don't know if a cat would do this, to be honest with you. Yeah, if this was a cat, this would not be the same story. But I guess in reference to like a camel, or even to how we project our loyalties onto dogs who are pack animals, therefore trying to serve us as a whole. They miss us when we're gone. They're happy when we're back. They want to do everything with us. They want to be by our side at all times. Endowing this camel with that sensibility immediately endears me to the camel and makes me feel as if, as a human, I'm missing out on something greater because of basically capitalism, the need to earn money, to feel success, to where you think that is where your happiness lies. But the truth is, on your deathbed, most people don't talk about, I wish I had made more money. They don't say, oh, I wish I had done better in that math test in the 5th grade. You can actually look at books about like near-death experiences, the dead and dying, and there's actually a list of what people have said to nurses on their deathbed, and it's all about relationships. Every single person on their deathbed, if they do express regrets, it's about love, relationship, forgiveness, friendship, and concern over those kinds of matters. And I think this story is indicative of that. I think it makes people who think that they were in the place of the merchant feel bad, rightfully so, about like, well, pay attention to the real relationship, the relationship that really matters, not about your relationship to money, but relationship to loyalty and the true riches that brings you. I like it. Thanks so much for sharing. All right. Let's see. Heartwarming and bittersweet. Yeah, I agree with that assessment. All right, Carrie Ann, author. Let me go into the Discord. Let me see what you got here. Oh, I guess I didn't need to close that out, huh? Whoops. I guess I could just keep the Discord up. Screenwriting TV. Here we go. Pitch deck. All right, let's take a look at this pitch deck, and then let's see if your pilot delivers on what you're promising in the pitch deck. Oh, Google Drive. Oh, now we're moving off of the Discord into a browser. 1 second, let me adjust. Let me see here. Window capture. Let's get a browser. This is backcountry. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so here we have Imagine Hunter S. Thompson. Carrie Ann, I was reading through your first slide. I'll try and recondense my initial thought, which is I would open with your second slide unless you're going to use your first slide as a cold open. And what I like about it here is your warning, like an FBI warning that comes in front of a piracy warning, or, don't reproduce this film, or this film contains graphic content and strobing lights, something like that. If you were to recontextualize this first slide by putting a warning first. I think one, you would set the tone, and it would be like a really unique way to open a pitch deck. I think you're onto something here. I just think I would recontextualize this into a warning. Also, remember that you're writing for TV and you're citing a gonzo journalist, Hunter S. Thompson. You're citing a novelist, Anne Rice, Terry Pratchett, and Raymond Chandler. But your only reference to something else that works on TV is sees the TV glow. So remember your audience that you're writing for, right? So you're going to be pitching this likely to a bunch of people who are cinephiles, who have seen a lot of television shows, and are in the film and TV business. And you want to make sure that your comps reflect something that they're going to latch onto immediately. You want your comps to be fairly recent. That way you're proving that your style fits in the contemporary. A lot of people would love to say, this is like Stanley Kubrick meets E.T. or something, right? E.T. was a hit 40-something years ago, and culture has changed since then. And Stanley Kubrick, while being a very masterful director, is dead. And there's no way to prove that those old comps combined will actually stand up in a new world where streaming is relevant, where YouTube is prominent, where people's attention spans are shorter and production budgets are smaller than their marketing budgets. It's a new world. So try and also make your comps as modern as possible. I think See As the TV Glow is your best comp out of that entire descriptor. But I love that we have, this is backcountry. I love the neon, the out of focus background with the teal and orange color scheme. You have your laurels, Lost Boys, found family, Vegas comes alive at night. I would probably revisit this, but I'm not going to until I learn more about your story and read a little bit of the pilot. Also, now I'm super paranoid, and I want to... Guys, why do you always clip me messing up and not like my nuggets of wisdom? Oh God. I just want to make sure I'm checking on the chat because now I'm paranoid that I'm messing everything up. Okay. What is backcountry? This is backcountry? Maybe my inclination to read this as backcountry is a note in itself. I'm not sure. A supernatural noir about modern vampires navigating survival in Las Vegas, a city that never sleeps, but still expects you to live in the daylight. They're hunted, misunderstood, and clinging to community in a world that fears what they are. Okay, excellent. It's a really good log line. Some things that stand out to me about this is navigating. It's a little bit of like a catch-all. It's like saying something without saying something. I wonder if this navigating could be replaced with something that gives us some stakes. No pun intended on your vampire show. A supernatural noir about modern vampires expected to live in the daylight. That could be it. A supernatural noir about modern vampires who cling to survival in a community or in a world that fears or misunderstands them. Help me move past that. I think you can hone in on navigating and even rearrange this log line to make it shorter, more concise by replacing where navigating is with something that you have at the end here. Maybe even making it into one sentence. This is backcountry. What isn't this is backcountry? Not jump scares and gore. That's been done and been done well. The horror here comes from the realization that the world you see from the realization that the world sees you as monstrous and is built specifically to exclude you. It's not Angel. Our vampires aren't seeking to become human. They're not chasing absolution. They're fighting to live as who they are, to be monsters, yes, but monsters on their own terms. And it's the total opposite of what we do in the shadows. Those vampires are fundamentally silly characters in a silly world. Backcountry's characters are deadly serious in a world that's deadly serious precisely because it is absurd. And yet, still funny. Gallows humor plus existential horror. Sisyphus must laugh. Here's some questions. Here's some concerns I have about this slide. I'm interested in what backcountry is. It is a literary device to say, hey, this is what things aren't, in order to kind of shape an image in someone's head. But it is what you choose to say, right? Because backcountry is not spaghetti. Backcountry is not a kitchen sink. Backcountry could be not a lot of things. And so when you're trying to clarify this, like one thing that resonated with me is like, it's not Angel. Okay, so that's a Buffy the Vampire Slayer reference, which is maybe like 20-something years old, right? Which is kind of telling me, okay, well, it's not Joss Whedon, it's not campy. It's not campy, is what I've heard from that. But more so than referencing Angel, I would say it's not camp. It's the tonal opposite of what we do in the shadows. Those vampires are fundamentally silly characters in a silly world, but yet, like if you skip down here and goes, and yet still funny. Gallows humor plus existential horror. This slide ends up confusing me more than it does help me. I would maybe consider just cutting it all together. Also, because you're saying things that are commercially successful, and you're saying, but that's not me. And to a person in a suit, and it goes, well, okay, so what is it? And why doesn't it contain elements of things that are already proven successful? Remember, whenever you're pitching this to get made and ask for money, you're asking people for an investment, and they're going to give you lots and lots of money to make a show. Probably like millions to shoot in Las Vegas, shoot during the nighttime, and have a bunch of special effects that are vampire-centric, right? Like, think about those makeup and special effects and the amount of blood and the amount of extra costumes that you're going to need. So whenever you say no jump scares and gore, I go, oh, okay, well, that's a selling point, and you're telling me I don't have a selling point. It's not Angel. Angel was a successful TV series that was a spinoff of an even more successful TV series shot in the same tone. It's like, okay, so is it not going to be beloved camp? That I could deal with. It's the tonal opposite of what we do in the shadows. Okay, so this thing that was very successful and very, very beloved and went on for multiple seasons based off of a successful movie. It's not that either. Like, what are you leaving them with? What is the successful comp? I would lean into what it is and why it's going to be proven to be successful, because you need to make their job easy for them. These people are not writers. They are developers in a sense. And the easier you can make it for them to say yes, the easier you can provide the sales tools for them to go to their boss and say, we have an Angel meets what we do in the shadows. Both of those things have been successful or for whatever reason. The better your chances of them passing this along to their boss, being able to talk about it with ease whenever they go to pitch it to somebody else who is a decision maker or a gatekeeper or holding the purse strings. So consider that for that slide. What is Gonzo Gothic? Absurd, haunting, queer, unapologetic. It's horror comedy, but it's not a dark comedy. It's an absurd comedy. That's a little overwritten for me too. Just tell me what it is. It's a horror comedy, but not a dark comedy. Well, it's a horror. Just say a horror comedy. The existential terror of a universe that makes no sense and offers no mercy. Not Raft. Camus. Again, stop telling me what things are not. Tell me what it is. Tell me what it is. And then also makes no sense. I'm seeing like a lot of negatives. I just keep being told what things are not. If it makes no sense, in what way? Can you give me an example? Imagine a vampire who goes to a blood bank but is overdrawn. I don't know. something like that. That does not fit the title or the tone of your piece. But like, give me an example, like help me imagine what things are. It's laughing at the horrific things we do to survive. It's knowing that just because something is life-threatening doesn't mean it can't be mocked for being ridiculous. The horror is the comedy, and it has teeth. I like that it has teeth. That's a clever tagline. You could say a comedy that doesn't just have teeth, that just doesn't just have teeth, has teeth. It has fangs or something like that. This is queerness in a world that insists on only one right way to live, survival in a system built to erase you. A metaphor for the marginalized experience wrapped in blood, fangs, and satire. So far, this is the strongest sentence. A metaphor for the marginalized experience wrapped in blood, fangs, and satire. Honestly, and if it's not absurd, if it's not camp, then maybe take this satire right here and blow that out for your marketing. This is satirical. If that is the specific brand of humor you're going for, you can tell me satirical. But I got to tell you, we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slides in, and I don't know who the main character is, and I've learned a lot about what the story is not, but I want to know the story. So consider that if your pitch deck was its own story with a 3-act structure, I think you have a wonderful beginning. This is a wonderful cold opening and a wonderful title page, and I even like your 3rd page, where you give me your log line. Tell me in a nutshell what this is. Your 30-second elevator pitch, your 1 sentence, get me hooked. Whose point of view is this from? What kind of world are we live in? What's at stake, and why should I keep watching? Answering all of those questions in your log line. This stuff, I don't know, I can kind of do without a little bit, maybe, or maybe consider condensing these 2 slides into one. If you force yourself to do that, maybe it'll clarify your vision quicker. And then we're going to get to the creator statement. Usually I put these at the end. Who's telling the story, and why can they only be the ones telling the story? At this point, I'm like, tell me the story. Get to the story. I've always put my team page or my creator or author page at the end. But let's take a look at it here. Resistance through storytelling, survival through satire, trans people, queer people, anyone outside the binary. We're terrified right now. I'm one of them. Horror has always been a funhouse mirror of society's fears. I'm a trans woman. I'm what society fears. So I'm holding up a mirror to my fears and showing it to society about what it's like to be seen as other, as a threat, as a monster. Created by and written by Carrie Ann Burke. I'm a trans woman who fled the U.S. after Trump's re-election. I had no safety net, no roadmap, just a brain full of horror, comedy, and a gut-deep need to build something honest from the rubble. This show is that. I'll just say this font is just a little small, but I'm also a 40-year-old man, so maybe it's my eyes. But who's to say another 40-year-old won't be reading this? I would just maybe, this font is lovely and very easy for me to read. This is Backcountry is Resistance Through Culture, a story about being monstrous, misread, and still fighting to mean something. The metaphor isn't subtext, it's survival text. They tried to erase us, so I made a story where the undead don't just survive, they bite back. Oh, I love that. I would maybe even combine, if you can find a way to combine this, there's a couple of redundancies here. This also might be, this slide, consider also might be 2 slides, the reverse of what we were dealing with the last 2 slides. There's always a why now slide. Why is this the time to tell the story? And then the creator statement is, why am I the person to tell this story? So this is your story to tell because you are a trans woman who has been marginalized, demonized by the society that you live in and had to flee from because of this political regime. And your voice is unique. Not everybody is a trans woman, so you have a unique perspective on what it feels like to be treated as the other and the monster. And I would say the why now is because of our current political climate, the anti-LGBTQA plus sentiments, the anti-trans community sentiments, issues with what bathroom do I use, books being banned. That could be a why now, and then your creator statement will be like, well, obviously, that's the person to tell the story because she is the recipient of all the hate. So obviously we want to hear her perspective. Oh, there it is, the why now. Okay, see, like this Carrie and this are kind of need to be combined, because right now you're doing in the context of marketing, but the truth is, like, you should combine these. You should combine your passion and the strike while the iron is hot. This is something that is real and viable right now, with market context. Queer trans visibility is under threat globally. The show is cultural survival. Audiences are hungry for genre shows with real stakes and real voice. Interview with a Vampire proved in the market. That is true, because there's a series, Interview with a Vampire series out that's on its like third season right now. Also, maybe consider Interview with a Vampire, the television series, not necessarily the movie, to be one of your comps. They're also looking for comedy with intelligence, elevated comedy. Yeah, this is Backcountry, is horror as protest, comedy as catharsis, and a fuck you with fangs. I will say that lean more into the marketing. If you're going to say market context, give them market context. How many shows about queer trans visibility or metaphors about queer trans visibility have won awards? How much viewership have they garnered? Do they have cult following? Like, and then sales and numbers attached to it, percentages, like viewership. If you're going to have something in market context, back it up with marketing data, because you have some of the key components here. Audiences. Okay, but who are your audiences? The demographic, 18 to 35-year-olds? The trans community? What other shows are proven successful in the market? World building. Let me check the chat. I've been going on and on. Let's see. Okay. Sorry. I'm learning a lot from this. I can definitely take this to pitch commission ideas. I think if there's a thing called game pitch, I wonder how that looks in comparison. Oh, Carrie Ann says, how many slides should a pitch deck be? I was told 15 to 20. Here's the real goal, is that there isn't like an actual number. It's how quickly and concisely can you convey why this story should be told, that you're the person to tell it, and why it's commercially viable. Like, these are like the big things that a pitch deck should convey, and it's your choice as to how you're able to accomplish this and how many slides. But I will say, keep in mind, because like the Stranger Things Bible pitch deck is so long, but people don't read. People don't read unless it's compelling and visually compelling, and they can move through the slide with ease, right? So think of it as like the Cliff's Notes to your pilot. Who am I investing my time in, both the author and the characters? Think about the things that make a story good. A plot is a good hook, but the thing that keeps people coming back are characters and relationships. So make us fall in love with a character. Right now you have world building. We keep hanging out in the meta, right? The big ethereal idea. But the more specific you get, even with character development, the easier it's going to be to hook in your audience. Like, what's the irony of your main character telling the story? It's a vampire who lost their fangs. It's a vampire who is in love with the sun. You know, what's the irony of why we should follow this main character and care about him through the course of this series, more so than it's at night, it's set in Las Vegas, it's not a bunch of things, but you did say it's a new one, so I'm thinking like vampire detective. Very cool, right? Has that been done before? Yes, but that works in your favor. It makes me think like Lucifer was so popular that even when it was canceled, it was picked up by Netflix and got even more seasons. And that is like a very recent kind of comp that you can use. Whenever I say comp, everybody, it's short for competitive market analysis. Who else in the market has been doing something like this successfully? So if you decide to buy and develop my version of it, there's a little bit of a guarantee or sigh of relief or proven market viability that you're going to get a return on your investment, because these things are expensive, right? It's really, really expensive to make television shows today, and you have to make sure that the person who is investing in you and your idea feels like they're in good hands, that they're in a confident space. Okay. Yeah, please, and I'll give notes till I'm blue in the face. At some point you have to decide whenever you are done. I do want to say that you are in good territory. Your design is good and catchy. Here's what I would say. You can also add a little life to these slides by using the same background or similar backgrounds that are out of focus or turned opaque to continue to build the tone of your world, right? So what you have here is a lot of text, but you're missing an opportunity to show your world building through subtextual background visuals, right? So if it's set in Las Vegas, I would go take a really great picture of Las Vegas at night that kind of fits the mood, or maybe you need to generate one using AI. I don't know, give me a bird's eye view of Las Vegas at night, and then you turn the opacity down, slide it underneath your text so it's still legible. Maybe put some outlines around your text so that the text still pops over the background, like you have here with Lost Boys Found Family, Vegas Comes Alive at Night, to add to your world building, because we're about to get into this world building slide here where you say vampires don't want power, they don't want politics, they want safety, they have to fight for it, right? So all the stuff that they don't want, just tell us what they want, clean, simple, to the point. We should be able to fly through this, right? Just like a good screenplay, it should feel like you're flying. It should feel like it was so easy to read this. And forgive me, because we're approaching 5, and I know that you wanted me to read a little bit of your pilot as well, but I think this pitch deck going through this is going to echo some of my sentiments that I share just about storytelling overall. Survival is sacred, daylight is deadly, empathy is rare. You've got a bunch of little great fantastic taglines in here peppered in throughout that I definitely don't mind as long as they're good. Vampires aren't a unified species. They are a patchwork of mythologies, each with different rules, powers, supernatural banes, and traumas. Some glitter in the sun, some fry like bacon, some vanish into mist. None of them belong. They can't get jobs, can't sign leases, can't go out during the day. They live in self-storage units, abandoned strip malls, and stolen hours between sunset and sunrise. See what I mean? A lot of can'ts, a lot of negatives. Keep in mind and pay attention to your language about what things aren't, what people can't do. Tell me what they can do. Make it proactive, make it exciting. I love this line. That's all I need. They live in self-storage units, abandoned strip malls, and stolen hours between sunset and sunrise. Beautiful, stolen hours. And I can visualize an abandoned strip mall. I want to see that. I want to see more of that kind of a situation, because I can picture that. It's difficult to say a vampire can't get a job. Okay, well, you mean they apply for a job? Is it the world that doesn't want them to work at McDonald's and knows them that they're there? Or is it the fact that most jobs are daylight? There's more mental gymnastics I have to do in order to imagine what that might be like. But whenever you tell me what it is, it brings a smile to my face. This isn't about style, it's about survival, and survival means building each other up or burning alone. Very fancy, very clever wordplay. Just make sure that that this thing isn't just full of salesy taglines. Eventually, you got to tell me what this is. Visual language, color, light, and frame. See, already I'm but I want to know who's the main character. Do you tell me who the main character is? There we go. We need this slide earlier. Meet the heart of the unliving. Because I just have started to get a little tired, right? Just tell me what the story's about. But here is what I'm interested in. The characters and the relationship. Why should I care? Caleb. The washed up vampire, pseudo PI, hiding in a noir voiceover and denim jacket. He doesn't want to be redeemed, he just wants to be left alone. Too bad he accidentally made a vampire who refuses to let him rot in peace. Patricia, Pants, the dead girl who didn't stay dead, final girl turned first time vampire, furious, traumatized, genre savvy, and ready to turn every helpless victim trope into a shotgun blast to the face. Angelina Stellian. Okay, so like perfect. Like here, I'm meeting the people I'm supposed to care about. With Caleb, I would just say, give me some stakes and backstory. This is a cool description. This is a clever description. But what I really need to know is that he is a PI. If it's genre noir, I can assume that there's going to be a voiceover. Denim jacket kind of helps me a little bit by putting a picture in my brain. He doesn't want to be redeemed. I don't care. Tell me what he wants. Tell me what he wants. Tell me what he wants. He just wants to be left alone. That's important, but also how? How do we say what he wants? If he just wants to be left alone, that doesn't really make for a compelling story, right? It's just a guy who wants to be left alone. Do I want to watch that movie? I don't know. I guess not really. I want to see a character who is in pursuit of something. And so I would say, even if his vibe is leave me alone, right? Like maybe that's his character trait. But be careful whenever you describe what a character wants. Like a vampire, yet a lone wolf. Or you know what I mean? Like a lone wolf is a character trait, but he wants to solve a murder. Oh, I want to watch somebody solve a murder. He wants to unravel the mystery of what happened to the person who turned him into a vampire. Oh, okay. I want to see that. And I think you said that earlier. I think it fits well here. If there's a mystery surrounding the way that Caleb became a vampire and he is a PI, right? Then I'll tune in for that. Like there is a mystery and he is trying to solve his own mystery of who turned him into a vampire or what happened to the person who did turn him into a vampire. Let's see. Some nice work in that pitch deck at Carrie Ann Author. I agree. This shows that you put a lot of work in. This is not just slapped together. Yes, and thank you for sharing. I know like I'm trying to be critical of it, but it's only because one, time is running out, two, I want you to like put your best foot forward. But visually, I love the photos that you're choosing, and I love the vibe that you're representing here. Do you think maybe one character per page instead of two per page? This is up to you. It depends on how important each character is. If you have two leads, they can share a page. If Caleb is really the only driving force and he's the only main character and everybody else kind of comes and goes and is supporting, give him his own page. It depends on the importance of the character, but only you know that. I love the dead girl who didn't stay dead. I think that's clever too. Final girl turned first time vampire, furious, traumatized, genre savvy, and ready to turn every helpless victim trope into a shotgun blast to the face. That's fun, but also maybe include her want too. Why are we investing in her storyline as well? Does she want, even if it's just revenge, seeking revenge or seeking to right the wrongs of other vampires who turned people against their will, like a clear motivation would be really nice there. A found family of monsters, misfits, and glitter boys. Okay, continuing on, Angelina, the vampire mama bear who kept the receipts, poker pro, emotional tactician, Caleb's ex, has seen it all, fixed it once already, and is very tired of doing everyone's emotional labor, but she still does it anyway. Okay. It's good. I do know what kind of character this is. That's a great character description. Still want to know what she wants. And while I pay attention and why what she wants might be in direct conflict with other characters would be a bonus. Stellian, the glitter boy with the worst haircut in undead history. Twilight sparkle, Twitch stream charm, medium between worlds, loyal, goofy, brave when it counts. Not a joke, just the heart no one saw coming. I like the glitter boy with the worst haircut in Undead History. I like the Twilight Sparkle. Twitch stream charm. Medium between worlds. Yeah, I would also say what's his want and why is he important to the story? Why did he make the deck, essentially? Other characters, vices, visions, invigorish, trade deuce, plans heist while calculating emotional. Like, I'll be honest, like my first thought is I kind of don't want to read this slide. It seems like they're supporting, it's like maybe, I don't know. The text is small. It's not as visually grabbing as like people with their pictures by it. I would say maybe I'll learn about these other characters if I decide to read on. You know, every TV show kind of has the three storylines: your A storyline, your B storyline, your C storyline. Your A is your main character that have the overarching storyline of the show and the series. The B, which is your supporting characters who have their own arcs, and C, your runners, right? Like the people who come in and out. Maybe they're the villain of the week. Maybe they're the bebop and rocksteady, you know, the comedic relief that just show up just to break the tension for the audience every once in a while. And if these guys are the B's or C's and don't contribute to the overall plot or storyline that you're trying to pitch to these executives, I would take them out. I might even replace this slide with something like, if Caleb doesn't get X by Y time, then the world implodes. Like, what are the stakes of the world? If Caleb doesn't solve the mystery of this TV show, what happens? Does he finally meet his death? Does everybody meet their death? Do vampires all burn up and lose their citizenship? You know, like, what are the stakes of what happens if Caleb doesn't become proactive in the story and solve something, because he is a PI, right? Let's see. And our big bad evil guy, I would just say the spacings kind of caught my eye. Everything else was perfectly centered, but you push this over because of the logo, and I just noticed it. Renfeld, oh, nice. The fascist in rhinestones, Elvis impersonator, soul eraser, mental manipulator. Yo, if this is the big bad evil guy, give us a picture like you did for all of our main characters. Like, let me see that component. Even if you have to AI generate it, give it to me. Give it to me. Don't make me do that work. He feeds on cruelty, literally. Eats identity for breakfast. Gentrifies hell for fun. The only thing worse than what he does is how much he enjoys it. Okay, yeah, and also, like, I like these descriptions. You could probably drop a few of them and substitute in like what he wants and why they're at odds with our protagonist. You know, what is Renfeld's overall goal? And make sure that you're looking at him as like he's the hero of his own story. Villains rarely think that they are the villains. Is he trying to turn everything into the dark underworld and erase humankind from the map? Is he trying to extinguish the sun so there's permanent night and they can live in freedom all day, every day, and be all powerful? You know, like what's his motivation? What does he want? Why is it in direct conflict with Caleb? I'm going to set you on fire and destroy your credit rating. Okay. Series structure, narrative engine. You could pick one of these. If you have to do a slash, just pick one for conciseness. One serialized arc per series. Serialized series is redundant. I would probably just take out the serialized. One arc per series. But it's also implied that if you're a good writer and you're writing a TV series, you're going to have an arc in there. So you could just kind of keep it series structure. Kind of watch the formatting here. I know you're trying to fit in these pictures. Either blow them up, make them the whole background, make them out of focus or more opaque or something so you can keep the text legible, or maybe find a way to cleanly divide stuff in half so the text is legible and the picture is clear. Let's see. Series is the ROL UK way of saying season in the US. Oh, okay. I see. Early on, we establish a motor. Catch the killer before time runs out. I should have known this a lot earlier in your slide. And then almost immediately we subvert it. Catching the killer is easy. Figuring out what's making them kill is the hard part. And each clue leading them closer to the answer also increases the tension. Great. Yeah, I want to know all of this earlier in the slide. Each season tells a fully serialized arc. No procedural resets, no monster of the week. The engine is emotional, not episodic. Okay. I know I've been giving you guff about what things are not, but this does paint a clear picture. No procedural resets, no monster of the week is good, but also consider what does that mean it is? There's probably a term for that, and it's probably something like linear storytelling. Something something along those lines. Chronological, linear format. I think there is an expression for it. Okay, the focus stays on survival, identity, trauma, and found family. No ancient bloodlines, no vampire aristocracy, just queer working class monsters trying not to get sunburned or shot. Cool. Future seasons expand the world, new cities, new characters, new mythologies, new survival metaphors. The structure evolves too. Road trip arcs, reverse heists. Here's what I'll say about this too. Don't hide the ball from your investors. Hide the ball from your audience, right? So even this is a little generic. You can get very specific so that people have faith that you know where this is going and you don't end up with like a lost situation where you're saying at the end of series 1, season 1, for the Americans out there, Caleb finds the person who turned him into a vampire, revealing that there is an underground network of vampires who are trying to turn as many people as possible, and that there's a gang, and this goes deeper than we thought. Or Caleb finds that there are vampires in government secretly working on blah, blah, blah. Like, don't hide the ball of whatever you think the surprise twist is. This pitch deck is not for an audience, it's for an investor, and they want to have confidence that you know exactly where your story is going. Let them in on the cliffhanger, let them know why season 2 is going to expand, where it's going to expand to, and why it's going to be cooler and better than the season before it, and the season before it, and the season before it. So, future season, expand the world. What does that mean? Season 2, Caleb is leaving Las Vegas and moves to the City of Angels, where he finds out there's actually more demons or something like that. Because you said new cities, so maybe it moves to Los Angeles. Who are the new characters? We meet a new subgenre of monster. Like maybe season 2 werewolves get involved. Like tell them that. Okay. The pilot, waking up drunk in Vegas. One girl, one bite, 1 month until the end. When a burnt-out vampire wannabe PI turns a murdered blackjack dealer to preserve her witness testimony, his plan is simple. Catch the killer, kill the girl. Clean, clinical, controlled, anything other than creating another monster. But Pants, yes, really. You could say is her name. If you have a tendency to put this slide before the characters, maybe, I'm not sure. She's newly undead, furious, and absolutely done being someone else's tragic backstory. As she claws her way into unlife, she demands answers and agency. The reluctant sire and the rookie fledgling become unlikely partners, chasing down a serial killer through the vampire underworld of Las Vegas, where cursed bloodlines, spectral trauma, and weaponized blackjack strategies collide. By the end of the pilot, she's got a mission, a voice, a stake in the story. Once again, do their work for them. Take out the vague, cool stuff and let them know what happens in your story so they're not guessing. They're going to sell your material, so you don't have to give them as much marketing material as you have been, right? There's some good world building in here where you talk about cursed bloodlines, spectral trauma, and weaponized blackjack. That's fun. That sparks my imagination. She claws her way into unlife. She demands answers and agency. Answers to what? And an agency for what? What is she unable to do herself? And be specific with that. She demands to know who turned her, and she wants vengeance, or she wants to make them pay, or she wants to be able to go back into the daylight again and needs to, complete X mission under Y circumstances to do it. Set up the stakes, be specific, tell the story. Season 1 at a glance. Okay, if you're going to do season 1 at a glance, I don't think we really need this. I kind of thought that this was you trying to tell me this. Blood-soaked mystery, a reluctant mentorship, a city full of monsters that mirror our worst fears and best hopes. A lot of clever log lines, taglines. I would just stress this deep, this many pages into the pitch deck. You have 23 pages of pitch deck. I would say that's too much. help me get to the point faster, is what I would say. Season 1 at a glance, I'm interested in. The premise: a washed up vampire PI wannabe turns a murdered blackjack. Remember, see how we've already kind of said that before? Make sure that you're not telling the audience things that they already know. Keep amping up the excitement, keep amping up the specifics, telling the story, setting hooks to get them interested. What's the catch? But if you find yourself repeating yourself, question if you need the slide. Episode breakdown, 1 through 4. The bite. Okay. This is a lot to get through. I appreciate that. I do want to do this. I'm kind of running behind on my timeline. I have to kind of start packing up here and go downstairs for my own next mock writer's room. But this is Backcountry, adapted from my completed novel manuscript, currently seeking a publishing home in parallel with series development. Good. To say that this is based off of IP is hot right now. This is based off of the novel that I own the exclusive rights to. I wouldn't even say that it's your novel. I think that might get you in the door faster than saying, I wrote a novel and then this is my screenplay based on it. People are attracted to IP. Whether that IP has a market or not, they'll have to find out in their second meeting. If you want to get through the first meeting and get to a second meeting, I would say based off of the novel, which you own the exclusive rights to, this is Backcountry. And then I would also put your author page about me at the bottom too. This is why I can tell the story. This is who I am. And it's like saying, remember me. It's like the handshake after a long conversation, or the handing of a business card after you've pitched yourself to someone. Here, remember me. This is who I am. This is my contact information. It's always at the bottom. But yeah, I think you can very, very easily find a way to get the slide count down, be more concise, share more of your story, which I know you already know what your story is because you have the pilot, right? So don't withhold from the business side of things. Withhold from the audience to create mystery and create tension. But your pitch deck is not for your audience. But yeah, I mean, obviously you do have a background in marketing. This looks cool. You're full of catchphrases. You're full of like taglines that you would stick on a poster. I like these small ways that you describe people with something evocative. The glitter boy with the worst haircut in undead history. I don't know what glitter boy really means, but I think about, Twilight vampires glittering in the sun or whatever it is. And so I have a vague idea of like what that means to me. The worst haircut in undead history, like big, voluminous, overdone, over the top. And then undead history, I know he's part of the vampire mediumship class of people. Well, I have the pilot and 12 other episodes. Nobody told me I wasn't supposed to write. You know what? That's fine too. Sometimes those 12 other episodes can clarify. I wouldn't, under normal circumstances, everybody don't commit to writing a whole TV series unless it's the only thing you ever plan on doing and you're sure that it's going to be funded. Otherwise, that's time that you could put into other projects to pitch, because you have to put a lot of irons in the fire before you figure out which one really gets hot and is worth pursuing. And worst comes to worst, all the irons in the fire get hot and you are a multi-talented showrunner raking in all of the dough and accolades. Gotta say, that's not really how it has worked, in my opinion, from what I've seen. But allow yourself to write a pilot, understand the world of a TV show that you're creating, but relieve yourself of the pressure from having to finish an entire season in order to feel confident enough to sell it. Let's see. Okay, y'all. I think that was good. Once again, so sorry for all the crazy echoes and terrible sound quality. But Carrie Ann Author, I want to say thank you. I know I was very quick and abrupt and critical, but it's only because of the time crunch that I'm on. Thank you for sharing. You have a really amazing TV show with a very specific visual component and style. Lean into the satirical nature of the humor, since we know it's not camp and we know it's not mockumentary style like what we do in The Shadows. The pitch deck contains all of the elements that you need already. I would just say it's about whittling it down, so don't fret, don't have the anxiety. I think everybody here would probably agree with me in saying that if I saw this on Netflix, I would give it a try. I would click on it and I would see what it's about. It's got a lot of flash production value. It's got murder mystery. It has all of the elements of being able to sell something that is within the zeitgeist. I would make sure that your comps are the most modern that you can. Reference, I saw the TV Glow and Interview with the Vampire, the TV series that's still on the air right now as we speak. And yeah, congratulations. When you see somebody who's put in this level of work and gotten to their pitch deck and the full pilot is done, just know that a lot of time was spent, a lot of care was spent into crafting this. You don't get this far on a half-baked idea. So Carrie Ann clearly knows what she's doing. She's a professional author and has done this and worked in marketing before, visiting our Twitch stream. And there's a lot that we can learn from her, I'm sure. So Carrie Ann, thank you so much for sharing your work with us. It's a brave thing to do. Not everybody who comes on here is so open about sharing stuff. A lot of people lurk. That's fine too. I really appreciate that. And guys, we should raid. We should start filling in our numbers into somebody else in the reading and writing community who could use the support, because it's such under watched category here on Twitch. So I will say, guys, if you haven't started, you should now get to writing. Thanks for joining me on the I Should Be Writing stream. Let's jump into somebody in the reading and writing category who could use a little love, or maybe... Oh, you know what? Let's raid Cypher Robinson. Cypher is a good friend who stops by our stream. Let me make sure I'm still spelling that right. Cypher Robinson. Yeah. And he's a screenwriter too. So Carrie Ann, I know you were saying that we're rare, few and far between, but Cypher, I believe, dabbles in screenplay format too. So guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. It was a pleasure to chat with you today. Let's start this raid for Cypher Robinson. Tell him I said hello. I have to raid and run and go set up for a whole other writing thing. And guys, I will see you next time. All right? Peace.